Thank you, counselors. I think we're still waiting to have a quorum. So far, I see the vice president with us. I see Counselor Dela Cruz. I see Mr. Abdu. And myself is 4. So we need one more counselor before we can start our meeting. And John, I hope that you're helping right now. Just monitor the waiting room. And when you see a counselor, please bring them right in.
Unmute.
I think we have a quorum now. I think we've got Mr. Rodriguez, who's now with us.
And confirm that they can hear you.
So
Just can everybody hear me?
1, 2.
Can everybody hear me? Just ask the people that are there.
Okay.
Okay. I am calling the Lawrence City Council to order. Today is Tuesday, May the 18th. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 38, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This public meeting of the Lawrence City Council for Lawrence, Massachusetts is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted, but the public can listen and or view this meeting while in progress by use of Facebook and YouTube web access sites referenced below. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the meetings designated for public comment by use of the web and phone access provided at the Lawrence City Council Facebook page and Lawrence City Council YouTube page, and of course right here at the Lawrence Zoom channel. With that, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Levy.
Hello.
Councilor Levy. Councilor Gonzalez. Councilor Selena Reyes. Councilor Selena Reyes.
She's connecting now.
Councilor Abdul.
Present.
Councilor Payano.
Present.
Councilor De La Cruz.
Present.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Present.
Councilor Estela Reyes.
Present.
Council President LaPlante.
Present. We do have a quorum. At this point, would you please join me in a moment of silence? Thank you. Can you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to
the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. At this point, we are going to open it up for public participation. At this point, of course, please, you have 2.5 minutes. At the 2-minute mark, the clerk will go ahead and will let us know that you've got 30 seconds left. Of course, don't address any specific city councilor, but as the council in the whole is acceptable. So with that, I do see Mr. Abdu. Your hand is up, Mr. Abdu.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will be brief. In light this evening of there's a home rule petition before us, and our rules do not provide for public participation. I wanted to speak to it briefly. My name is Dave Abdu. I'm a citizen of Lawrence. Address is 54 Stevens Avenue. And I want to open by thanking you for this time and recognizing Madam Vice President, colleagues, and citizens with us this evening. Tonight, we're going to be entertaining agenda item number 8521, home rule petition to legislatively recognize Jacob GEC. Jacob Easy was a Lawrence police officer killed in the line of duty. He served beginning in 1963 and passed in 1993. Will be joined this evening, and speakers to follow include representatives of his family and his widow, Elaine Easy. His daughters are Jacqueline, Sheila, Donna, Sharon, and Stephanie. I'm not sure which will speak this evening, but they will be speaking on behalf of the family. We will also, my understanding is that Lawrence Police Chief Roy Vask will also be speaking, and former colleague of Officer Easy, former retired Lawrence Police Officer Tom Murphy. I want to thank the Lawrence Police staff, and in particular, Eileen O'Connor Burnell and Tom Cuddy, Detective Tom Cuddy, who have done considerable work in background on putting this home rule petition together to be here this evening. I'll save my comments for the agenda item, but I felt it important to speak, whereas we don't have the public hearing. Home rule petitions don't have public hearings. So with that, I want to thank you for the time this evening. And when we consider this item, I would appreciate all of your favorable consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abdu. Again, we're open up. If you wish to speak, and just ask for your name and address for the record. If you could use the Zoom button to put your hand up, or if you can just give me a little wave, that would work too. Anybody else wish to speak at this matter? I do see a woman, Donna Easy. Again, your name and address for the record, please. You have the floor, and unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you. My name is Donna Easy. I live in Exeter, New Hampshire, and I'm here on behalf of my sisters and our mom to speak for our dad for the home rule petition. I just want to thank you all, especially Officer Cuddy. I want to thank you so much for all the hard work that you put in for us this past year. Also to Dave and to Eileen and all the others behind the scenes that we don't know of. I just wanted to speak a little bit about our dad. He was very well known in our town, especially in our neighborhood as kids growing up. All the kids looked up to him. He was really a dad to everybody, and he made time for all of us. When he used to do yard work, he would give all of us kids a ride in the wheelbarrow down to the end of the road and back, making multiple trips. And he always had time for family. He always went above and beyond, not just in his job, but just in his personal life. He always cared about everybody that he came across. And we all know the sacrifices that our dad made, not only for the city of Lawrence, but for his family. He worked tirelessly to be able to provide us girls with the best he possibly could, and yet always making time for family trips and outings. We still laugh today when we ride together in the car. Growing up, he would always ask, girls, do you want to take the scenic route or through Lawrence, or should we take the highway? And he loved driving around town with all us kids. He was proud of Lawrence. He was proud of driving us around and showing us. He would often take us by places, that he worked while being an officer. And we just want everybody to remember the sacrifices that he made. We're never going to forget everything that he did, and not only just being robbed of his life, but also the sacrifices he made while he was alive for us and for others. And we just would like the rest of the world to know and to recognize his sacrifice and to never forget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do see Mr. Mali, and then we can go back to raise his hand and back to anybody else, and then the chief in that order. Mr. Mali, and then Chief Vask.
Good evening, honorable members. Humayun Mali, 53 Chester Street. Our city, when such a great police officer dies, our city will die. Our citizen grateful to the service of our police department. Our police department, with the impeccable leadership of Honorable Chief Roy Vask, has done excellent job. Lawrence Police need the contract. our city moving forward because our police department doing the best job that can be possible doing. We ask of you, of our honorable members in this important election year, please contract for Lawrence Police. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Molly. Chief Roy Vask.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, councilors. Councilor Abdu for bringing this forward. Obviously, something that's a long time coming. I have to tell that to the EC family. So for, on behalf of the entire department, thank you very much for, bringing this forward into the EC family. Thank you for the ultimate sacrifice that your dad made and his 25 years, by the way, of unblemished service to the department and to the community. Can't say enough about that. And obviously responding to a domestic call is one that police officers fear the most. It's one that's taken the most lives of police officers and ultimately led to your father's death. So I'm thankful that finally this has been fixed, if you will, and that his name will rightfully be placed with all police officers that have fallen in the line of duty in the Memorial of Washington, D.C. And I can't think of a more fitting testament to his life to have his name put on that wall finally after all these years. So we just wanted to, on behalf of everyone here at the police department, we just wanted to say thank you again to your entire family for his service, and hopefully this gives you a little bit more closure in that. And again, having his name rightfully placed where it belongs is really what we're thrilled about. So thank you. Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you, Chief. Is there anybody else in the public who wants to participate at this time? Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Today, I would like to speak on behalf of my family as a resident of the city of Lawrence, and and me as a citizen of the city. I live in 32 Gallup Street, and today I'm gonna speak on behalf. I'm gonna speak on this matter. It's item 81-2021. And this is the acceptance of the grant from my employer, MassDOT, to the Industrial Railroad Access Program. It's for $356,670. It's a grant that is coming to the city of Lawrence, and it looked beautiful, great, awesome. The city is getting money, and it's supposed to be for renewing a railroad that is privately owned railroad that goes through the south part of the city.
Privately owned.
It's mostly yes, privately owned, and it's mostly for a lot of goods going to the industrial park of the city. The only reason that I'm standing up here today is because some reason, one way or another, this project is going to benefit someone that I don't know, that because I was very open to have a healthy discussion on this item, they decide that I shouldn't be on the discussion because of conflict of interest. But as a resident, I'm taking this scenario today to let the other councilors know to please look into this grant. The city going to have to come up with $237,000, and on times that we probably going to have to raise the limit of taxes in a few years based on project that today we are voting in favor of. Taxes are going to be raised not this year, but eventually down the road. And people need to understand that saving money today, we're probably going to reduce the increasement of taxes for tomorrow. Look into this grant, because this look kind of like, I don't know who's going to be benefit from this. I won't have the opportunity to actually ask those questions. And councilors, it is within your duties to look into that. $237,777 to be exact. Those are the much money that we're going to have to come up with. If we don't look into it, we're probably going to have to come up with that money one way or another. I won't be able to discuss I won't be able to be in that discussion because at some point, even intimidation happened. Councilors, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rodriguez. I have another speaker here, Jacqueline Laporte. Did I pronounce the name correctly?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes,
I apologize that I don't have video.
that's fine. Just give your full name and address for the record, please, and you have 2.5 minutes.
Jacqueline E.C. Laporte, 32 Jane Road, Methuen, Mass. A week ago today marked the 28th anniversary of our father, Jacob E.C.'s death. He died May 11th, 1993. I was 8 months pregnant with my first baby. Brandon Jacob was born a month later, the first boy born into the family. I'd like you to know a little bit about my father, that he was a hard worker. He came from limited means, being one of 8 children who were raised mostly by my grandmother. She and my grandfather were separated. My grandfather was an immigrant who came to this country when he was 8 years old from Lebanon. In essence, my father's story is very similar to a lot of people who lived or grew up in Lawrence. His family wanted a better life for themselves and their children. His dream was to be a police officer. And when he became a police officer, he worked overtime whenever it was available to be a good provider for his wife and daughters. He wanted to advance, so he went to college and graduated with a degree from UMass Lowell. He cared a lot about others and the community and gave all that he had. As a matter of fact, a woman that I worked with told me that she knew him because he befriended her sons when they were growing up, and he had given them coats when they couldn't afford to buy any. He served as a police officer for the city he grew up in. He was proud of that. He served faithfully for over 25 years. His life was cut short in the line of duty when he answered the call to a domestic dispute. Our lives were changed forever after that, having to grow up without him. He missed all the special times that he would have had, loved to share with us, watching his 5 daughters grow, get married, and have grandchildren. It would be an honor for him to be remembered and recognized for his dedication and service. Thank you so much for listening and for your consideration. And we just really would like our dad to be remembered as the police officer that he was, and for the city that he served, and he was very proud of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak during this public participation?
Hello?
Hello, identify yourself, name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Kelly Staniszewski, 47 Hamlet Street.
Go ahead.
Would this be the time to talk about 8121 and the Hamlet Street?
8121, I believe, is a public hearing later today. So that would be the time to go ahead and to talk. So this is not the ideal time. You'll have more time later when we call it up for public hearing.
What about Hamlet Street?
I'm talking about Hamlet Street, 6821 Hamlet Street. It is a public hearing. That'll be addressed later this evening.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Officer Tom Murphy, I see your hand up, sir. Name and address, please, for the record, and it would be helpful if you unmute yourself.
For the record, my name is Thomas Murphy. I'm a retired police officer from the city of Lawrence, Hamlet Street in Lawrence. Back on the day in September 21st, 1986, I was preparing to work a special detail around 6:30 that morning when I heard over my police radio an unusual call, a call that all men and women in law enforcement hate to hear. And this call came from a unidentified citizen reporting an officer down on Crawford Street. Later that morning, I learned that the officer that was down was Officer Jake Easy. And as a result of his injuries, he was taken to the hospital, and history reveals that 7 years later, he died as a result of the uneventful, tragic incident that he was involved in. So as a retired police officer, I respectfully request that Jake's name be added with the other following officers: Peter Manning, Tom Duggan, Bill Scanlon, and Jeremiah O'Connor, to the list of Lawrence officers that have died in the line of duty. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Murphy. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak during public participation? Hearing none, the public participation section of the meeting is now over. The names addressed in the comments have been recorded by the clerk and are now made part of the record. At this point, I am going to be taking document 8521 out of order if there's no objections. And I'm going to ask the Vice President and Chair of the Budget and Finance Committee to give the committee report.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor President. Document 80, the motion is to take document 8521 out of order.
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made. It's been properly second. Roll call, please.
Councilor Estela Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Councilor Payano,
Yes.
Councilor Abdu,
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilor Levy, Councilor Levy,
Yes.
Council President LaPlante.
Yes, the motion carries. Vice President, what's your motion?
So the motion is to approve if it has been sent out with the favor recommendation, and I make that as a formal motion.
Motion made by the Vice President. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Abdu. Discussion? Councilor Abdu.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, colleagues. And thank you to Jackie and Donna Easy for their comments about their dad. And I know they're joined this evening by their sisters and children and their mom, Widow Elaine. I also want to thank the chief for his words on behalf of the department and Officer Thomas Murphy. Thank you, Tom. I believe, I spoke longer at the committee level than I anticipate right now. I do want to acknowledge, in addition to their comments, that we all know how difficult it is to be a police officer, or, as lay people, civilians, how difficult it can be to do their job. And anytime someone puts on a uniform in public safety, I know that's one job I couldn't do. And tonight we have the opportunity to recognize not only Jake's, Officer Easy's ultimate sacrifice, but the sacrifice that his family has made for the last 27 years. As Jacqueline had pointed out last week, the day of the committee hearing was the anniversary of that date. And it's taken a while for us to get here, but we're here and we have the opportunity to recognize his service, his ultimate sacrifice, as well as his family's sacrifice, and memorialize Jake in eternity on the wall down in of fallen officers down in Washington, D.C. And that will formally recognize and memorialize his service, his life, and his sacrifice. And this evening, I want to close by asking each and every one of you to ask the questions that you may have and consider what we're doing here is recognizing a man who gave his life for us, the 85,000 people that live in Lawrence today, because it wasn't just one act that took his life, but it was a commitment to serving the public as the officers do today. And that's a bit of a living memorial that, like the other officers that Chief Vask named, that we add Jacob Easy to that list. And I would humbly ask for your consideration this evening and ultimately for your support that we may lay this home rule petition before Mayor Vasquez in the morning, and hopefully his signature upon that document, and then on to the State House for final consideration by the state legislature and His Excellency the Governor. With that, I ask for your support this evening and thank you for this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abdu. The next speaker, next is City Councilor Maria De La Cruz. Councilor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Council President. I admire this family who's coming in front of us today. With the pain that is still in your life about losing your father and a husband and a mother that had to raise children by herself. You got my respect because I understand. I lost my father as well. And I understand the pain that it is to live day by day without your father. And I can imagine the pain for the grandkids that didn't have the opportunity to get to know the grandparents, the grandfather. Then we are really, I would like to say that sorry for the loss, sorry for the pain that you have been going through. And it's really sad. I would like to thank your mother for having all of you together and making sure that she was taking the place of the husband as well. A woman of power, I call. All of you, the children and the grandchildren, for staying in the community, around the community, even though that you have to go through that hard pain. Then sorry for your loss, but thanks God you all are alive and continue the legacy of your father. I will give my votes for your family. Thank you.
Thank you, councilors. Any other councilors that wish to speak? Councilor Rodriguez, I see your hand.
Yes, please, through you, Mr. Chair, Mr. President. I see that with all due respect to the family and the service that Mr. Easy did for the city of Lawrence, 30 years of service, and that's great. 5 years as volunteer. That's something that we definitely need to admire. On the first line, I know that we have done this before, this type of home rule petition for recognition in Washington, D.C., and the service that they have done for the city. And it says home rule petition legislation recognition of Officer Easy as killed in the line of duty without any charges in survivors' benefits. Can you clarify or specify what do you mean on that specific section, or what whoever proposed this and send this letter to? Just want to mention that and clarify it. If you have the answer, perfect.
Is there anyone that either maybe the chief or a budget person or the sponsor who may have an answer for Mr. Rodriguez? Mr. Abdu.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The family who worked with Officer Cuddy, and I'll defer to the police department if they want to comment further. The family, all these years later, is not through this action seeking money, seeking reward, if you will, for, that's just a lack of a word. I'm not suggesting anything else. It's, they are not seeking that through this action. They are seeking recognition of the selfless service and sacrifice that cost him his life. And I'll leave it there. There are opportunities, or there had been opportunities. This is not one of them. This is simply memorializing both the memory and in perpetuity the name of Jacob Easy on the memorial in Washington and other places that we honor our fallen police officers.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you, Mr. Councilor Abdu, for the answer. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. Payano, I see your hand is up.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to thank the family for being here and the proponents of this motion for bringing this up. Being a public servant, I think, is one of the toughest jobs that are out there. Public servants have to give it their all. It's really difficult to ever, not be a public servant, especially when you're in a small community like ours. Hearing the stories, especially those that are constantly in the community, like our police officers. Jobs like that where you're constantly seeing the negative parts of any community are tough. So being able to do that and keep a smile and be hopeful for your city and be proud for your city and be the type of individual that others can look up to is something that is key. So as the daughters were telling me those stories, I smiled, because that's exactly what we look for in our current city employees. When we talk about that, we want police officers to be living in Lawrence, firefighters to be living in Lawrence, teachers to be living in Lawrence. What we think about is the presence that they create in their neighborhood. So I'm proud of that his family was here with us today, that they're pushing for this. Thank you. Thank your dad for his service to our city. I think anything that we can do, even though, I always tell folks that, whether you're here in Lawrence for 5 years, 15 years, or 50 years, like, we claim you. So whether you're in New Hampshire right now or you're off in Alaska, you're Lawrencians, and know that your city cares for you and values you 100%. Anything we can do, let us know. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the council who wish to speak? Hearing none, I just want to say, is there a councilor wish to speak? I'm sorry. Nope. On behalf of the grateful city, I think we're going to be voting in favor, and just thank you to the EC family for your contributions, your family's contributions, and for the sacrifice that your family's made for our city. Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Levy,
Yes.
Councilor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Abdul,
Yes.
Councilor Payano,
Yes.
Councilor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilor Estela Reyes,
Yes.
Council President LaPlante.
Yes, the motion passes and is now being sent to the mayor for his signature. And thank you again for everyone who participated in this very meaningful vote that we just took. So thank you. Councilors, I will also.
I would like to take
Councilors,
item 9821.
Councilors, I would also remind you that we will need to sign this home rule petition. I believe this home rule petition will be sent to us by police, I believe, and in short order, probably sometime tomorrow. We also have a second item that needs to be signed for, I think all of us voted for, we call the nightclub home rule petition that has not been signed. So you will be seeing two different home rule petitions at your door, or arrangements made for your signature. So thank you. Mr. Rodriguez, you asked for the floor?
Yes, I would like to take item 9821 out of order.
Second.
2022 proposed budget by Mayor Candice Vasquez.
There is a motion to take that document out of order. I would, is there a second?
Yes, I second it.
Second. I would ask the membership and the author if we could just move on a simple ordering of a public hearing for the police station. Just order a public hearing. I know the police chief is with us, and it would be great if we can get back him to doing some other stuff rather than sitting here. Would you be willing to withdraw that motion and then order a public hearing, then go right back to that motion for Mayor Vasquez? Will you do that?
Is that we're going to discuss that the item, because I believe we will. So if that's the
So-
case, we prefer to go to the mayor.
So the request is if you could withdraw that item, is your prerogative.
No, my other question is, are we gonna discuss the police department item? Because I mean, as far as I know, we will discuss it.
As far as I understand, we were going to be sending it for a public hearing, and we typically have those questions and discussions after the public hearing, unless we're doing something different this evening. That would be my recommendation, like we normally do.
I'll take it.
I think the counselors, just to clarify the counselor, I think we are planning on having DCAM and some others on the public hearing stage, so you can ask questions then if that works. They're not available tonight, but they will be at the public hearing. If that makes a difference.
That will make a difference. Yes.
Are you withdrawing your motion, Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes, I will join.
Thank you. The motion is withdrawn. If there's no objection, thank you, sir. If there's no objection, I'd like to take document number 8421, which is the borrowing of funds of $58 million.
Make
out
a
of
motion.
order. Out of order. Motion's been made.
Question.
Motion made. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. Abdu. Discussion, Mr. Payano.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand it. So why are we moving this?
We're just offering some courtesies. This is a very simple vote to offer we're going to vote for a public hearing.
There's some other items like the Channing grant. Are we going to be moving those as well?
We will not be doing that. There are other members of the police department available for that. We're just trying to relieve the police chief and as a courtesy to him. And then this should be a very quick vote, I would expect. Any other discussions on taking this out of order? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Estela Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Councilor Payano,
Yes.
Councilor Abdu,
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilor Levy,
Yes.
Council President LaPlante.
Yes, the motion to take out of order passes. Is there a motion, Mr. Abdu, out of your committee?
Yes, Mr. LaPlante, through you, on May 12th, the Budget and Finance Committee voted unanimously in favor, to send to this council a favorable recommendation. However, I'm not going to submit that to you in the form of a motion, as there was an oversight, which I take responsibility for as the chair. And that is, we did not that evening make a request to order the public hearing. So what I will do now is make a motion, and I wish for the record to reflect the addition to the Budget and Finance Committee language that we order a public hearing. So with that, make a motion to order a public hearing for item number 8421, the borrowing of funds up to $58 million for the new police station project, pending the documentation, itemized cost estimates, and budget request, as well as DCAM to be present at the full council meeting as requested by members of the Budget and Finance Committee. That I submit to you in the form of a motion.
Second.
Motion's been made as a committee report with the public hearing element and other items. It has been properly seconded by Vice President Reyes. Discussion on the public hearings or a discussion on this? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Levy,
Yes.
Councilor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Abdu,
Yes.
Councilor Payano,
Yes.
Councilor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilor Estela Reyes,
Yes.
Council President LaPlante.
Yes, the motion passes. The public hearing is now going to be ordered. Councilor Rodriguez, is there an item you wish to take off? out
Yes,
of order at this point?
yes, through you, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, I would like to take item 9821, which is the budget of 2022 proposed by our mayor, Candice Vasquez.
Motion to take a document out of order. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Selena Reyes. Discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Levy,
Yes.
Councilor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Abdu,
Yes.
Councilor Payano,
Yes.
Councilor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilor Estela Reyes,
Yes.
Council President LaPlante.
Yes, the motion carries. We have a presentation by the mayor, Mayor Kendris Vasquez. Mayor, are you with us? Are you willing to give a presentation?
I am here, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Welcome, Mayor.
Thank you. Good evening, Council President Mark LaPlante. Good evening, members of the Lawrence City Council. Most importantly, good evening to the residents of the city of Lawrence. Tonight, I stand before you to officially submit for your review and approval the budget for fiscal year 2022. Please note that I am submitting this budget in one of the most challenging times for our city, as we're still recovering from the Columbia gas explosion and continue to be in the middle of a global pandemic, which has caused uncertainties across the board. Rest assured that the budget that I am presenting to you is one that focuses in addressing those concerns. This budget emphasizes the dedication this administration has had towards a vision on what the future of the city should look like. A city that is forward-thinking and creates a Lawrence that is stronger for all. This budget is focused on our residents and our business owners. This budget is balanced with real anticipated revenue. It does not include any layoff from any of our city employees. Instead, it's adding necessary workforce to these departments that need it the most, and makes an investment in services that will have a direct impact in the lives of our residents. This budget does not include a tax increase to our homeowners or business owners. Yes, councilors, I am not asking you to increase the taxes for the new fiscal year. Once again, no tax increase is requested. For those reasons, I humbly request that this legislative body approves this budget by June 30th, 2021. Now, I'd like to share with you more details on the specifics of the budget. Before you, once again, is a balanced budget that requires no tax increases while making serious commitments to youth and recreational activities, the economic development of our city, mental health services, and our aging public works infrastructure. Investing in recreational programming is vital to ensuring that our young people have a safe, supportive environment in which they can thrive. The proposed investment expands these programs and takes a step toward supporting the young people of Lawrence. The COVID-19 pandemic has created serious concerns for the small business community. This budget makes a commitment to ensuring that we're creating equity for businesses by removing necessary barriers that have steamed growth and development for the economic engine of our city. In an effort to improve mental health access for our residents, this budget makes a necessary investment to increase the capacity for these services provided by the city and our police department. Our task in city government is to improve the lives of residents by ensuring that we are providing quality services by continuing to invest in our infrastructure. This budget makes one of the largest investments in our public works department in recent history. A commitment that ensures that our roads are paved and our bridges repaired, our water and sewer infrastructure delivers quality services, that we're doing so in a timely and efficient manner, and that we're investing in our parks so that the working families of Lawrence have safe and accessible green spaces. We owe that to the taxpayers and to our residents. Lastly, while this year has been one of the most challenging, I am proud of the work that our administration has done to present to you what will be a fiscally sound budget that does not require cuts in services for our most vulnerable residents. We're in a time where leadership and guidance is of the utmost importance. That's why. This is why I also commit myself to meeting with every member of the City Council who wishes to discuss the budget in further details. I will have my staff available as well to answer any questions or concerns. And members of all of the department heads will be present during the budget hearings to address any concerns that are common. At this time, I would like to thank all of the department heads who participated during this budget process, especially our CAFO, Mr. Mike Iannello, for his guidance and support. Now, I would like to thank the City Council in advance for their attention to detail this matter, and I humbly request your approval of this budget. The sooner we get this budget passed, the sooner we're able to move towards getting our city back to normal. Mr. President, I ask that you also give me the opportunity to share this marks with the members of our Spanish community. Buenas noches, Presidente del Consejo Municipal de Mark LaPlante, miembros del Consejo Municipal de Lawrence, pero aún más importante, buenas noches a los residentes de la ciudad de Lawrence. Esta noche me presento ante ustedes para presentar oficialmente el presupuesto del año fiscal 2022, para que ustedes lo puedan revisar y aprobar. Por favor, sepan que estoy presentando este presupuesto en uno de los momentos más desafiantes para nuestra ciudad, ya que todavía nos estamos recuperando de las explosiones de gas. Continuamos en medio de una pandemia global que ha causado incertidumbre en todos los ámbitos. Pero tengan la seguridad de que el presupuesto que les estoy presentando es uno de los que se enfocan en abordar estas preocupaciones. Este presupuesto enfatiza la dedicación que tiene esta administración hacia una visión sobre cómo debería ser el futuro de la ciudad. Una ciudad con una visión clara y que crea que podemos tener un Lawrence más fuerte para todos. Este presupuesto está enfocado en nuestros residentes y dueños de negocio. Este presupuesto se equilibra con ingresos reales ya previstos. No incluye despidos de ningún empleado de nuestra ciudad, sino que estamos agregando a nuestra fuerza laboral necesaria en los departamentos que más lo necesitan y realiza una inversión de servicios que tendrá un impacto directo en la vida de nuestros residentes. Este presupuesto no incluye un aumento de impuestos a los dueños de casas o los dueños de negocios. Sí, concejales, no le estoy pidiendo que aumenten los impuestos para el nuevo año fiscal. Una vez más, no estoy solicitando ningún aumento de impuestos. Por esta razón, solicito humildemente que este cuerpo legislativo apruebe este presupuesto antes del 30 de junio del año 2022. Ahora me gustaría compartir con ustedes más detalles sobre lo específico del presupuesto. Ante ustedes hay un presupuesto equilibrado que no requiere aumento de impuestos y al mismo tiempo hace compromisos serios con los servicios juveniles y recreativos, el desarrollo económico de nuestra ciudad, los servicios de salud mental y nuestra envejecida infraestructura de obras públicas. Invertir en programación recreativa es vital para garantizar que nuestros jóvenes tengan un entorno seguro y de apoyo en el que puedan prosperar. La inversión propuesta amplía estos programas y da un paso hacia el apoyo a los jóvenes de Lawrence. La pandemia del COVID-19 ha creado serias preocupaciones para las pequeñas empresas de nuestra ciudad. Este presupuesto se compromete a garantizar que estamos creando equidad para las empresas al eliminar las barreras innecesarias que han frenado el crecimiento y el desarrollo del motor económico de nuestra ciudad. Es un esfuerzo por mejorar el acceso a la salud mental para nuestros residentes. Este presupuesto realiza las inversiones necesarias para aumentar la capacidad de estos servicios proporcionados al Departamento Policial de la ciudad de Lawrence. Nuestra tarea en el gobierno de la ciudad de Lawrence es mejorar la vida de los residentes, asegurándonos de brindar servicios de calidad y continuando invirtiendo en nuestra infraestructura. Este presupuesto hace una de las inversiones más grandes de nuestro Departamento de Obras Públicas en la historia reciente. Compromiso que asegura que nuestras carreteras estén pavimentadas y nuestros puentes resbalados, nuestra infraestructura de agua y alcantarillado brinde servicios de calidad y que lo hagamos de manera oportuna y eficiente, y que estemos invirtiendo en nuestros parques para que las familias trabajadoras de Lawrence tengan espacios verdes seguros y accesibles. Esto es lo que nosotros le debemos a los contribuyentes y a nuestros residentes. Por último, si bien este año ha sido uno de los más desafiantes, pero estoy seguro que el trabajo que se ha realizado en nuestra administración para presentarles lo que será un presupuesto fiscalmente sólido que no requiere recortes en los servicios para nuestros residentes más vulnerables. Estamos en un momento en el que liderazgo y orientación para nuestra ciudad son de suma importancia y por eso estamos aquí. Eso es lo que yo me comprometo ahora a reunirme con cada miembro del Consejo Municipal que desee discutir este presupuesto más detalle. También tendré personal disponible para cualquier pregunta o inquietud que usted tenga. Cada jefe de departamento estará participando en las reuniones del Comité de Presupuesto y Finanzas para contestar sus preguntas. En este momento quiero agradecer a todos los jefes de departamento por el arduo esfuerzo que hicieron para asegurar que este presupuesto sea exitoso. En especial a nuestro CAFE, Mark Ayanel, por su guianza y compromiso. Ahora me gustaría agradecerles de antemano a cada uno de ustedes, concejales, por su atención a los detalles en este asunto tan importante. Y humildemente solicito su aprobación de este presupuesto. Cuanto antes se apruebe este presupuesto, vamos a poder continuar trabajando para tener una ciudad más fuerte. Muchas gracias, Ciudad de Lawrence. Gracias, concejales. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you to the City of Lawrence.
This document is going to the Budget and Finance Committee. At this point, we do have the chair of the Budget and Finance with us. I also would like this evening to just so we have a schedule as a courtesy to all of us and to the department heads who are going to be and the mayor ultimately. I'm looking to see if we can schedule a public hearing at this point, perhaps sometime in June. We have 45 days since last Thursday when it was submitted to us to finalize this and to give our clerk's office the right sweet spot of time to be able to get that public hearing to the Eagle Tribune in a timely manner. I'm going to throw out a date, and if hopefully we can work around that date if we can, a date that there is no other city council meetings. I'm looking at June 22nd to see if we can schedule a full city council special meeting for a public hearing on just the budget and nothing else. If I don't hear any objections, I'm hopeful that we have cleared our decks that week anyway, because we know budgets are coming along. At this point, would there be an individual willing to offer a motion to order a public hearing for June the 22nd, which should be a Tuesday?
Mr. Chair, Mr. President, rather, I would make a motion that we conduct a public hearing for the purposes of the FY22 budget consideration on the evening of Tuesday, June 22nd at 7 p.m.
Second.
There is a motion, I believe it was seconded by Councilor Gonzalez. Discussion on the motion to order a public hearing. Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Estela Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Councilor Payano,
Yes.
Councilor Abdul,
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilor Levy,
Yes.
Council President LaPlante.
Yes. Motion carries to order a public hearing. Mr. Chairman of the Budget Committee, do you have are you closer to getting a schedule, or is that still in the works for the Budget Committee?
Mr. President, I would beg the indulgence for approximately a day or two. I recently sent out some dates and times for considerations. I would suggest once we, as a committee, coalesce around 5 good dates, we'll provide that to you, Madam Vice, and Teresa Nathaniel for consideration. If it does not interfere with any other city activities or meetings, I'll present those to you immediately.
Thank you very much. So the budget schedule is forthcoming on the advice of the chair. So thank you, everyone, and we look forward to a vigorous and dynamic budget discussion. So thank you for that. Without any further ado, we're going to go back up to the beginning of the public hearings. The agenda is document 37419. Clerk, will you please read the public hearing notice for the zoning map amendments?
Can everyone hear me okay? Notice is hereby given that the Lawrence City Council will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 18th, 2021 at 7 p.m. at a public meeting conducted by electronic means with public viewing, listening, participation, and input provided remotely in compliance with public gathering limitations in effect. The purpose of said hearing is to gather testimony, information, and public input concerning the proposed amendment to the City of Lawrence revised zoning map to change the following lots on the zoning map on or about Kendall Street from residential 2 R2 to residential 3 R3. Tax map 92, lots 63, 64, 65, 66, 76, 76-1, 77, 93, 94, and 95, and tax map 91, lots 63 through 91. Copy of said zoning amendment and the map to which reference is therein made are on file and may be examined in the Planning Department, 12 Methuen Street, first floor, Lawrence, Mass, during business hours of Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Persons wishing to be heard on this matter shall be afforded the opportunity.
Thank you. The public hearing is now open. Is there anybody who wishes to speak on this matter? Hearing none, the public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion second.
Motion to approve by Councilor Rodriguez, seconded by Councilor Payano. Discussion?
Yes.
Councilor Vice President Estela Reyes.
The question is for the author of this item, Councilor Payano. This is going to be the whole entire street, or this is going to be only a spot zone?
So this is going to be, 1 second, let me just go back to the original motion. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is 12 homes on that street. So it's not the entire full street. It's 12 property lots.
Thank you. That answered my question. No more questions.
Are there any members of the council who wish to speak on this matter? Councilor Dela Cruz, I see your hand is up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. What I see with these changes is that there is not consistency. It happened on this 3A, it continue to happen, but I don't see consistency about changing those laws around the whole community. Then I would like Mr. McCarthy to explain to the community what it is that is going on. I did my studies around on Kendall Street, and to tell you the truth, there are houses that are 3, there are houses that are 2, close to each other. What is the recommendation that he's making? Because it is fair for one family, one properties, but it's not fair for the other properties. Then especially on Kendall Street, it is inconsistently that situation on one block. Then sometimes you don't know who to vote for, because if you look at one side, it's 3 houses next to the one that it was proposed the other day. Then for next time, I think Mr. McCarthy should be coming and explain to us the consistency that they should have in place, that when this thing come up, you know, the rules go for everybody, the ordinance go for everybody. At this point, it is not consistency on Kendall Street.
Mr. McCarthy, are you with us this evening?
But Mr. Kamar,
So Council LaPlante.
Good evening. Yes, I'm here tonight.
Okay, Ms. Dela Cruz has a question. She has the floor and has a question for Mr. McCarthy. Do you understand the question, Mr. McCarthy?
Yeah, I believe so. I think the question was about the consistency of doing the Kendall Street and the difference in the types of homes. I believe that the original application that went before the Lawrence Planning Board and got a negative determination was for approximately 40 properties. I'm glad to hear that it's been scaled back to 12 properties. I think part of what Council Dela Cruz is talking about is that Kendall Street's a long street. At the northern end of Kendall Street, where it meets Ferry Street, there is a neighborhood of residential 3 housing across the street. As you move up Kendall Street, it becomes more residential 2 until you get to the end of Kendall Street. And then when you come to Ridge Road, which is actually residential 1, my suggestion at the committee was that the northernmost properties, as a compromise, that the northernmost properties be changed to R3 to coincide with the residential 3 neighborhood across the street, but that the properties at the other end of Kendall Street not be changed in the residential 1 neighborhood, that a residential 3 neighborhood next to it. So if those are the 12 properties that have been identified, I would support that. I think that would be more consistent with what Councilor Dela Cruz is talking about.
yeah, because
Does that answer the question? Does that answer the question?
it does, but at the same time, when we have neighbors that really want to make the changes, then we don't know what to say. And from now on, you know, I would like to see that if it is an R1 and R2 and 3, to be specific. And when people go to apply, that they know what they're getting into it, because how a person was allowed to build a 3-family without a permission? How come?
I can't answer that.
Who's responsible for that? Now the house is already built. We cannot tell the person to destroy the house because we need more housing in the community. Then I would support this this petition at this time because the house is already made. But for future reference and for future plans, we should identify exactly when the person go to get the permit, exactly what kind of properties, if it is in R1, 2, or 3, or 4, maybe. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you, Councilor Dela Cruz. Mr. Payano, and I think Councilor Levy is next. I think Councilor Payano, you have the floor.
Thank you, Council President. So I want to take it back. I think, you know, I was reading through my notes. I'm reading what's presented right now. So it's not 12 because in tax map 91, it's lot 63 to 91. So it would be more properties on that section. You know, what I would say is I agree with Councilor Dela Cruz. I think when I was first presented about this, my inclination for the constituent that had me look was, you know, I did my research. I went through the property. I looked at the homes. I went to the assessor's map. I looked at what the assessors had, and the assessor has, you know, multiple, you know, more than a dozen properties, you know, close to half the properties on that section of the street, more than half the properties in that section of the street are officially 3-family homes. Now I say officially because there are several other properties then when looking through had air conditioners. This is like the middle of June, air conditioners in attics. So we can make an assumption. I mean, maybe some people air condition their attics, but there's a likelihood that that attic is also being used as a residency. I think, you know, it is important for, if it was a few homes, I would say leave as is. If it was 30%, 40% of homes, I would say leave as is. But since that section of the street is already over half the assessor has, if you look at the map that they're providing us with, you see 3F. I mean, you're not able to see it clearly here, but you're able to see a lot of these homes listed as 3Fs, which to me says that the city's already approving them as 3 families. We're just kind of like giving like a wink, you know, to them and allowing them to do those properties up, whereas others that are living in between 3 families are not able to do the same. So I don't like the idea. You know, for me, I don't feel like that there's justice in that. I don't feel like that's right, saying to one person, yes, it's okay, and no to the other. The city, even though they didn't change the laws and the rulings and the zoning, the city decided years ago, decades ago, they decided to secretly change the zoning and allowing certain individuals, God knows how, to come through. Now, this is the motion that's being presented to the council, as you know, with as much research as I could possibly do. If there are council members that would not want to, you know, go as far as doing that section, like I agree with Councilor De La Cruz. I think we should just do that area. But if there are councilors that don't feel that way and they want to decrease the number, you know, I'm open to hear, you know, to hear changes.
I believe Councilor Levy wishes to speak on this matter. Was I right, Councilor Levy? Did you wish to speak?
Yes.
Okay, floor is yours.
Yeah, I think so that most of my question was answered by Councilor De La Cruz and Councilor Payano also on that regard. But we had in here Mr. Tamar Carochet, that is the president or the chair for the planning. So I would like to hear from her, okay, what she's thinking about this situation, because I saw that at one point, the planning board were in favor to this. But my question is, like, whoever that is going to have a permit to make a construction or to do whatever, you know, works in any apartment or any house, it has to be passed through the planning board, the zoning board. But what I hear is that this never was the way that it was done before. So maybe later, after the building was already built, is when they find out that we were building a 3-family on that area.
I believe there's a question for Planning Chair Podolchuk.
Tamar?
Hello, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilor Levy. I wasn't planning to speak on this, but to answer the question, I believe that the planning board recommended against adopting this change at the point when we saw it. I believe that the proposal was for only a few buildings, that the zone when we initially saw it. Councilor Payano and there was a concern about whether it would be spot zoning is how I recall it, but it sounds like it's for a bigger area now. But perhaps I'm wrong. Councilor Payano is shaking his head.
Councilor Levy, you have the floor. Do you want to wish to give it to Councilor Payano?
Yes.
Okay, Councilor Payano.
Thank you. So thank you, Tamar, for being here, and thank you for your service to the city. So I can't speak to when it was initially saw outside of this current proposal. When this proposal was sent in, it was, so essentially, if I remember correctly, this covers pretty much Kendall Street from Ferry all the way down to, I believe, Ridge Road. So it's not covering just one property or even 5 properties. It's covering as many sections as I saw,
right,
that had those 3 families.
Right. I'm acknowledging that what I'm hearing here tonight appears to be different from what we saw, in a way that seems like it addresses the concerns that were raised by the planning board. But I also did not look at the minutes of that meeting, and this is my recollection. Dan, do you recall differently the conversation?
Yeah, the document that was advertised and the document we've been discussing has been the same one all along. I think there's some confusion about the number of units, because one of those, on regards to one of it, says beginning with document with map and lot 63 through lot 91. That's almost approximately 28 units there as a group. And so if you add those up to the first ones that are identified in the other section, it adds up to almost 40 units of housing, all the way up to Ridge Road. That's what we discussed at the planning board. I think the notion was that one street being done in a neighborhood that's all residential 2 and residential 1, again with spot zoning. When we looked at the maps, you would saw a residential 3 neighborhood at that point, and that you didn't see another residential 3 neighborhood until you went further down past Prospect Street. So that was, I think, part of the question. I know, but this is the documents that's before us that was advertised and that's being discussed is the one that we've all been working with as the one that was submitted. The only one that we talked about as a compromise was the one that was discussed at the committee, at the ordinance committee, when we discussed whether or not it would be more appropriate to do a limited number of units on the northern part of Kendall Street, where there was more land, where there was a residential 3 neighborhood. I think that's was part of the discussion as a compromise, but the planning board looked at all 40 of the properties, approximately 40 properties, and their opinion was that it was to deny it on a number of reasons.
What?
Councilor Levy still has the floor unless she wants to relinquish it for the second round. Councilor Levy?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, what I can see in here, thank you, Mr. President. What I can see in here, so the planning board on February the 5th of 2020, they approved the same, it's practically, what the recommendation is for the same thing that we are really asking right now for the spot zone for those, the same property that are in here, just 11 property.
Okay, Councilor Payano, second round. You get the floor.
Thank you. So what I'll just say is, I think that I understand that there are concerns with this street. What I would say is my understanding of spot zoning. I mean, I'll read one of the statements that the planning board sent in is that the following conditions were seen as detrimental and ultimately led to a negative vote. There's a few items that were mentioned, but one of them is that as the proposed change would only affect one or few properties, the proposal appeared to be spot zoning. As we were just told right now, this current proposal isn't spot zoning because it's not addressing a few properties. It's trying to address what's going on in that particular street. But then again, as I mentioned, Council President, when I spoke before. If there are, I believe, it is my belief that we should be looking at that street or that section, even if it's, maybe what we want to do is not necessarily look at from Ferry to Ridge Road, which that's my personal view that should be the correct place. But maybe it's from Ferry to Jordan. But what I will say is that between Jordan and Ridge Road, there are several 3 families in that side as well. But if we want to stick to Ferry to Jordan, we could do that as well. At the end of the day, I want to be able to solve some of the issues that those constituents are having. So if there are other recommendations to this, I would advise council to reach a compromise instead of potentially voting this down. I honestly think that this is not an issue. Like the current proposal, it is not spot zoning. The current proposal is not pop zoning. I will also say that there are legal 3 families. There are more than half of that certain area, 52% are legal 3 families that we are taxing them. We're assessing them as three families. And there are others that are not being assessed as 3 families, but look like 3 families, and several 3 families that look like they have other tenants as well. So it's just something for us to keep in mind. So I will ask councilors to think about this. A lot of research was already done. Conversations we've had with neighbors. If you wish to vote against for whatever reason, if there's a way to reach for a compromise, let me know. I'm willing. If it's something that sounds reasonable, we might be able to change it.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Looking at the situation that we have in front of us, I asked myself a question, and I wanted to express that question to other councilors. So today we have in front of us a series of 3 families that are not being necessarily legal, that have the opportunity to actually have those houses become 3 families.
A point of information, Councilor Rodriguez.
Councilor Payano, what's your purpose for rising?
So just point of information, the 3 families that are there. There are legal 3 families there, even though it's not. It goes counter the ordinance, the zoning. The city approved them as 3 families, so it's not like they're illegal 3 families.
Yeah, I'll get there.
Councilor Rodriguez, you have the floor.
So essentially what we have in front of us is a situation that we have an opportunity to actually allow people to go ahead and do the right thing. There is some legal houses that are 3 families already. As Councilor Payano mentioned, more than 50% of them. And the city are assessing those as 3 family. The zone might be different, but the city is already seeing those as 3 family. So what we're doing today is taking a vote to actually allow those people to be 100% as they are already, as the city already have allowed them to, one way or another. We are taking a vote that is going to help some residents to probably ask for a permit to have their house be 3 families, since they've been using it as 3 families. Obviously, with all the safety precaution, and if the construction and building codes allow them, they probably be able to have those buildings, dwellings, to be a 3 family dwelling. I see this as an opportunity to actually allow people to do the right thing. And if we decide not to and be blind about it, we can be blind about a lot of stuff in the city of Lawrence. But the reality is something different. The reality here is that we're not looking at one property, we're looking at the entire at the entire block that is proposed by Councilor Payano. And that will benefit those people. That will benefit the community around it. Because it's not like they're going to open new apartments, or perhaps they will, who knows. But at least we are giving them the opportunity to do the right thing. And perhaps if they are go ahead and become a three family, if they wanted to, the city gonna have more revenue, because those houses that are not already been assessed as three family, they will have the city will have the opportunity to do so. So, councilors, I think that doing the right thing, doing the due process, that and the research that other councilors have done, and including Councilor Payano have done all those research. I think that we should look ahead and think outside of the box and approve this measurement. I will vote in favor of this tonight. Thank you.
Are there any other councilors who wish to speak on this matter? I see Councilor Gonzalez wishing to speak.
Thank you, sir. I can't support this. In my district, a lot of people ask me if it's two family and they want to add an apartment in the attic. As I say to this neighborhood, they say, no, you need to get a permit, because I will report you if I see you working on the attic, adding another apartment, I will report you. But how are we going to put a stop, like Mr. Payano say, in that neighborhood? It's a two family house, but really it's a three family house, because the attic is air conditioned in the attic. How are we going to stop that in the city if we already, like they saying, they have it, they're building three floors of house, and it's only it's not its own in three. How are we going to stop that? Who? The city give you a permit to build this house, and we're not doing anything as a city councilor? I cannot vote in favor of this. I cannot approve this. Thank you, sir.
Very good. Are there any other city councilors? We're going to wrap this up fairly quick, but I do see Mr. Payano's hand is up, and then I see, actually, I don't think Councilor Reyes, have you spoke yet, Vice President?
No, not yet.
So you have the right to go first.
I'm gonna let Councilor Payano speak first, and then you can come back to me.
Mr. Payano, you have the floor.
President, thank you, Madam Vice President. Councilor Gonzalez, thank you for speaking and sort of like letting us know where you're at, so that way I can sort of address your concerns. I think I would agree with you, Councilor Gonzalez. I think if this was any other case, any other street, I would be 100% with you. To the point that when the constituents came to me and were talking to me about this, I said no. I'm like, no, that's just if you this is exactly what I said. Like, if you listen to me at city council meetings, you will hear. I even said you might want to go somewhere else. You might want to go talk to another counselor. And what they asked is like, can you at least come to the street and look at it? And I'm like, well, of course. Went to the street and looked, and I'm like, yeah, this is what I looked, and I'm like, well, it looks like there's a lot of illegal three families, right? That's what my first impression. I'm like, wow, this is so weird. Let's keep doing research. So I think the difference here is that these three families, like 90% of the three families that are there, are not illegal three families, right? So imagine there's a street, in at the Arlington or Tower Hill, where let's say they're all R2s, right? And you happen to be in that home that's an R2, but towards the left of you, you have a three family. Towards the right of you, you have a three family. In front of you, you have a three family, and you're the only two family. And when you ask, well, like what happened? Well, listen, so when I owned my home, 20 years ago, when I bought my house, so-and-so knew this person, so-and-so knew this person. I was the only Latino on this street, and I didn't have those connections that these other people did, right? Because these other people got through the system because of connections that they had within the city, right? Because it was an R2. Again, these are not illegal. They're not illegal three families anymore. They're official three families the city has approved. The city at no one point, right? So like if it's been legal for 20 plus years, right? 15, 20 plus years, like that's a situation that we're in. So in this case, what I think most of the times, Councilor Gonzalez, I would agree with you, is that in this situation, you know, I want to make it clear that there's a difference. And what we're trying to do is have a certain equality to make sure that the law is applied to everybody. And it looks like the city unofficially changed the zoning for some of them and didn't change it for everyone else. So in this particular case, right, like we want to make it equal for everyone else. Everyone else that 20 years ago just didn't have that buddy in, you know, inspections or wherever that got everything through, right? That's what the purpose of this particular motion is. I wouldn't be doing, like, if anybody were to come up, you know, and essentially ask for the same thing, it wouldn't be something that I would be pushing for. So I just wanted to make it clear, Councilor Gonzalez, because you bring up, you know, some really great points, but just wanted to show that there's a difference with this particular project. Thank you, Council President.
Yep. So back to the Vice President who hasn't spoken yet, Madam Vice President.
Thank you, Councilor President. Councilor, we are familiar with this item, this specific one. So we all know the reason why we want to bring this up. So I think my questioning is going to be also a motion for just a friendly amendment for Councilor Payano, if he will accept from Ferry to Jordan Street. If that will be something that you will accept it as a motion.
So just for clarification, Mr. Rodriguez actually has the motion. So that would be asked of Mr. Rodriguez. Are you clear of the request, Mr. Rodriguez?
I will refer to the person that actually seconded the motion. He's okay as an author of the motion as well, Councilor Payano.
We're going to need to hear Mr. Payano to make an informed decision. Mr. Payano?
My apologies. I was looking at the map, didn't realize I was on mute. No, I was just saying thank you, Council President, Councilor Rodriguez, Vice President Reyes. Yes, I will take that as a friendly amendment. So that would be from 23 Kendall Street. So on odds, it's 23 Kendall Street to 51 Kendall Street, and on evens, it would be 24 Kendall Street to 46 Kendall Street.
Thank you. And just so I'm clear, and the rest, and specifically the clerk is clear, with this motion, it's going to, if I understand this motion correctly, it's going to substitute the parcels that are listed in the public hearing notice, if I understand this correctly, and substitute it to be 23 Kendall to 51 Kendall on the odd, and 24 Kendall to 46 Kendall on even. Do we understand that motion correctly? Mr. Rodriguez, yeah, that's okay. So everybody's familiar with what the motion is. Council Vice President, do you relinquish the floor? Or is there anything else you want to add?
No, I don't want to. I think it almost said as that Councilor Payano accept the friendly amendment.
Okay. I want to wrap this up fairly soon, but I do see Councilor De La Cruz's hand up. Councilor De La Cruz.
Thank you, Council President. One more time, I'm saying that we have to be fair to everybody, and the whole block has the situation that my neighbor is R2, my other neighbor is R3. It's not consecutive houses that are R3 or R2. Then are we planning to take the whole area or just the whole block around there to be an R3? Or are we planning to have the whole block? Because the whole block has the same problem. The whole block has the same problems. All the way to Ferry Street. They have the same issue with the houses that say R2 or R3. And so and so.
All right, I will have a question for Mr. McCarthy. I don't know how substantively the amendment has changed from the public hearing notice. Parliamentary wise, do you have any guidance as to whether we can certainly amend and do this vote without any kind of input from the planning commission? Is this within our rights to go ahead and do this, or do we have to refer this back with this change? What's your past practice and parliamentary process?
Yeah, the purpose of the Lawrence Planning Board is to make a referral, to review it, to make a referral with their opinion on it. They can propose amendments, they can propose changes, they can say it should be approved in whole, they can say it should be denied in whole. When it comes back up to the committee and then to the full board, it's not necessary for it to have to go back to the planning board if those amendments have been acted on, or even acted on a second time or acted on a third time. It's part of the process, as long as the committee and the full council are aware of what the opinion of the planning board is. I don't think it's necessary to send them back there for another referral.
So we're all clear. I do really want to move this. This should be our last point. Council Vice President, and then we're going to call.
Thank you. I promise that's going to be my last one. And that is for Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
If we decided to go with that ferry through Jordan Street, would it be okay not to send it back to your committee, and we're going to be safe just to move forward?
I believe it would be safe to just to vote on it with a friendly amendment.
Okay.
And we're going to see that in a later document tonight, how that works.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So very good. So hearing no further discussion, it is time to take a roll call on this matter. Clerk, please call the roll.
What is that, Mr. President? What is that right now that we are voting for?
So this is the substitute amendment, and this is from 20, to repeat, from 23 Kendall to 51 Kendall on the odd, from 24 to 46 Kendall on the even. And as a reminder to the council, this zoning change requires 6 votes. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Levy,
Yes.
Councilor Gonzalez,
No.
Councilor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Abdu,
Present.
Councilor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Councilor Payano,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilor Estela Reyes,
Yes.
Council President LaPlante.
No, the motion, what's the roll call, clerk?
6-4.
6-3.
6 yes, 2 no, 1 present.
Thank you. The motion carries. Thank you. The next item is document number 18520. 18520. Clerk, please read the public hearing notice.
Notice is hereby given that the Lawrence City Council will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 18th, 2021 at 7 p.m. at a public meeting conducted by electronic means with public viewing, listening, participation, and input provided remotely in compliance with public gathering limitations in effect. The purpose of said hearing is to gather testimony, information, and public input concerning a proposal to amend the city's zoning ordinances by deleting section 29-17A, the Riviendo Gateway Overlay -RGO on any land that is currently within the Downtown Smart Growth Overlay, DSGO, and to amend the city zoning map to reflect that change. Copy of said zoning amendment and the map to which reference is therein made are on file and may be examined in the Planning Department, 12 Methuen Street, first floor, Lawrence, Mass, during business hours of Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Persons wishing to be heard on this matter shall be afforded the opportunity.
The public hearing is now open. I see that the president of the Planning Commission, Chair Kovalchek, your hand is up. You have the floor.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. This was the matter I was prepared for tonight. So our request here, we hope that it's mostly just fixing a technical problem with the zoning. Let me explain to you what happened. So the council passed new zoning for the Downtown Smart Growth District. That was something you all participated in, lots of the public participated in. We fully approve of that, think that it's great. There is a section of the city where that overlaps with another overlay. And what happened is the fact that there was underlying zoning and then two overlays was having the effect of making it confusing for developers about which they were allowed to choose. And so we're asking for this correction tonight. And what it would do is it would eliminate the overlap between the two. It would keep the Reviviendo overlay for the North Common District. And it would keep the Downtown Smart Growth overlay, which is the more recent one for the downtown. So it's just trying to eliminate confusion and make it more clear for developers while honoring the wish of the public and the folks who worked on those two different sets of zoning. So we hope that you'll consider approving the amendment.
Thank you. Are there other members of the public who wish to speak on this matter? Hearing none, the public hearing is now closed. Councils, what is your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. I think that was by Councilor Selena Reyes. Was I right about that? Seconded, I think that was by, I'm having a hard time seeing, Councilor Levy?
Maria de la Cruz.
Maria de la Cruz. My apologies. Councilor Maria de la Cruz properly seconded. Discussion. Councilor Rodriguez.
Yes, is anybody from the administration have some type of presentation or something to for us to see what the real overlapping means and the difference in between the two and why are we doing this? And I mean, something. I received 4 different documents from the attorney, and I've been going through each of one of those, and some of that makes sense, some others doesn't make sense, some others is confusing. I wish that we can have some type of presentation detailing each of those confusions, if they were, each of the benefits that are overlapping, which one I mean, it's nothing on the package, to be honest with you. The documentation that we received from the attorney, that it was requested from the Ordinance Committee, we received some clarification on that. I appreciate that the effort from the Ordinance Committee on that end. But I believe that, somehow, one way or another, if we just relying on the document that we have in front of us, it's nothing. And it's actually black and white. We received something today from Madam McCarthy that is colorful, and I was trying to match my reading from the other 4 documents with the actual overlapping on the full color map that we received today. I believe, Council President, that I'm not going to put a motion. Now, I'm not going to have a motion to table at this point because I would like the conversation to follow through. But it will be beneficial for us to hold up and actually have some type of presentation, if there is any type of presentation on this matter, on regard to this overlay. And that way we all clear as to what we needing, what we actually leaving on the table, what we're actually leaving out of the overlay, out of the other Reviviendo zoning, and the overlapping between the two. It is a lot of information there.
Is there anybody else who wishes to speak, or is there anybody from administration wish to address it, either or? I see Councilor Vice President Reyes has her hand up. Councilor Reyes.
Thank you, Councilor President. As Councilor Rodriguez has mentioned it, I request from my committee just to, the city attorney, just to forward some information for us, just to be more clear and safe, how we're gonna be voting in this item. I agree with him. I think we should table at this point, but I'm not gonna throw any motion, just to kind of leave it open for any other councilor that they wish to ask a question, but the member that from the zoning board that they might can answer. But at this point, I think we need to have more information about this item.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Are there any other members of the council who wish to speak on this matter or may have a question, maybe to the planning chair, maybe? Councilor De La Cruz, I see your hand is up.
As you know, the Reviviendo Gateway, it is going to be the North Common, and the other section is going to be like the downtown Lawrence. I don't think it's nothing that we cannot understand, because it's like just naming a location for the purpose of commercial issues, I guess. Reviviendo is mostly a residential area, and the RGO is mostly a commercial. I don't know if Tamarco explained it better than what I know, that we can understand. It's very simple.
Okay.
Rochelle?
I think the question is to the chair. A call check, Madam Chair.
Sure. Thank you, Councilor De La Cruz. So a few of the differences between the two are the updated zoning allows for, in the downtown area, allows for additional density. It has a different parking standard, and it requires more affordability when folks redevelop multifamily properties. It requires 20% as opposed to the 10% that had previously been true with the Reviviendo Gateway. So the idea is, and then in the keeping it, if you got rid of the Reviviendo Gateway entirely, which we are not recommending, but if you just got rid of the RGO, what you would lose are process measures that help folks propose housing and other types of development in the North Common, lot size, and affordability requirements. So those are some of the big differences between the two. And what you're voting on is just to clarify which you're asking for the downtown. And I would agree with you that the downtown area has a different standard of development, and it's more of a commercial area, and that's different from the Reviviendo. And so it makes sense to us that they would have different zoning. Dan, is there anything that I missed that you would want to add?
I would just comment on the physical parameters of the two districts. The documents that I submitted to the committee showed the existing areas. Because we don't have a GIS department, we rely on Merrimack Valley Planning Commission to provide us up with our GIS data. So they were the ones who created the map that I sent around for everybody today. So what was done physically was the RGO formerly ran from the North Common neighborhood all the way to the Merrimack River. What the amendment will do, it'll move the RGO back from the Merrimack River to Common Street, so that there'll be a defined line at Common Street where the downtown ends and the RGO begins, and that there's no overlap. So the map that you all received today shows two distinct areas where at one time the RGO ran all the way to the river. And in fact, we did have a developer who used the RGO for a project when they could have used the downtown. The downtown has certain benefits that the city likes. It is an actual state adopted smart growth. The RGO is over 18 years old now. It was done prior to the state adopting smart growth. So it lacks a couple of mechanisms that the downtown provides, and the city would prefer that the downtown area be done that way. But we still felt there was some value for the North Common neighborhood, and that's why I retained it. The original, as I mentioned before, the original recommendation was just to revoke the RGO. We had a number of people came from the North Common neighborhood who argued in favor of saving it for that neighborhood, and we agreed with that, and that was the amended version that came to the committee, and that was approved at the committee. So physically, those are that's where the line is drawn at Common Street. If it's necessary for me to come back to provide more information, but I think it's fairly clear. These are two distinct overlay districts. I think Ms. Katalchak did a good job of saying some of the substantive differences, and I think the physical differences are just as I explained.
Thank you. Are there any other councilors who wish to speak on this matter? Hearing none.
Motion to table.
There has been a motion to table
Second.
by Councilor Rodriguez. I believe it's been seconded by Councilor Vice President Reyes.
Yes.
No discussion. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Estela Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilor De La Cruz,
No.
Councilor Payano, Councilor Payano,
He's trying. Give him a second.
Yes.
Councilor Abdu,
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes,
Present.
Councilor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilor Levy,
Yes.
Council President LaPlante.
Yes, the motion to table carries. The next document is document number 21820. Clerk, please read the public hearing notice.
Notice is hereby given that the Lawrence City Council will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 18th, 2021 at 7 p.m. at a public meeting conducted by electronic means with public viewing, listening, participation, and input provided remotely in compliance with public gathering limitations in effect. The purpose of said hearing is to gather testimony, information, and public input concerning a petition presented by the Massachusetts Electric Company, DBA, National Grid of North Andover, Mass. 01845, requesting the City of Lawrence conduits, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures as may be necessary for the transmission of electricity. Said underground conduits to be located substantially under and across the public way or ways hereinafter named. South Broadway, beginning at a point approximately 0 feet northeast of the center line of the intersection of Salem and South Broadway, and continuing approximately 118 feet in a northeasterly direction. National Grid to install a heavy-duty handhold number 40-1 to help beat service number 97. A copy of the related plan, the petition, and all documents filed on behalf of the petitioner are available for examination, viewing, and copying at the office of the City Clerk, City Hall, 200 Common Street, Lawrence, Mass. Any business day during the hours of 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. and is also available at the City Council public hearing website located at www.cityoflawrence.com, Document Center Index 164. Persons wishing to be heard shall be afforded the opportunity.
Thank you very much. The public hearing is now open. Is there anybody from the public who wishes to speak on this matter? Hearing none, the public hearing is now closed. Council, what is your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion approved by Councilor Vice President Estela Reyes, seconded by Councilor Jorge Gonzalez. Discussion. Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Levy,
Yes.
Councilor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Abdu,
Yes.
Councilor Payano,
Yes.
Councilor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilor Estela Reyes,
Yes.
Council President LaPlante.
Yes, the motion carries. The next document is document number 21920. Clerk, please read the public hearing notice.
Notice is hereby given that the Lawrence City Council will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 18th, 2021 at 7 p.m. at a public meeting conducted by electronic means with public viewing, listening, participation, and input provided remotely in compliance with public gathering limitations in effect. The purpose of said hearing is to gather testimony, information, and public input concerning a petition presented by the Massachusetts Electric Company, DBA National Grid of North Andover, Mass. 01845, and Verizon New England, Inc., requesting the City of Lawrence, Mass. By and through its city council members for permission to locate poles, wires, and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures along and across the following public way. McKinley Ave, National Grid to relocate one JO pole, joint owned pole 978 on McKinley Avenue, about 5 feet for DOT project intersection improvements at South Broadway and Mount Vernon. Copy of the related plan, the petition, and all documents filed on behalf of the petitioner are available for examination, viewing, and copying at the office of the city clerk, City Hall, 200 Common Street, Lawrence, Mass., any business day during the hours of 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., and is also available at the City Council public hearing website located at www.cityoflawrence.com, Document Center Index 164. Persons wishing to be heard shall be afforded the opportunity.
Thank you. The public hearing is now open. Is there any members of the public who wish to speak on this matter? Hearing none. The public hearing is now closed. What is your pleasure, council?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Approved by Council Vice President Reyes, seconded by Councilor Gonzalez. Discussion? Hearing none. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Estela Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez, Councilor Rodriguez, Councilor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Councilor Payano,
Yes.
Councilor Abdu,
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilor Levy,
Yes.
Council President LaPlante.
Yes, the motion carries. The next document is document number 26520. Clerk, please read the public hearing notice.
Notice is hereby given that the Lawrence City Council will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 18th, 2021 at 7 p.m. at a public meeting conducted by electronic means with public viewing, listening, participation, and input provided remotely in compliance with public gathering limitations in effect. The purpose of said hearing is to gather testimony, information, and public input concerning a petition presented by the Massachusetts Electric Company, DBA National Grid of North Andover, Mass. 01845, requesting the City of Lawrence, Mass. By and through its city council members for permission to construct a line of underground electric conduits, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures under and across the public ways at the intersection of Methuen Street and Appleton Street, specifically beginning a point approximately 0 feet east of the center line of the intersection of Appleton and Methuen Street, and continuing approximately 153 feet in an easterly direction from pole 3288 Methuen Street. National Grid proposes installation of approximately 25 feet of 2 to 4 inch of concrete encased conduit for commercial service upgrade located at 9 Appleton Street, Lawrence, Mass. Copy of the related plan, the petition, and all documents filed on behalf of the petitioner are available for examination, viewing, and copying at the office of the city clerk, City Hall, 200 Common Street, Lawrence, Mass, any business day during the hours of 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And it's also available at the City Council public hearing website located at www.cityoflawrence.com, Document Center, Index 164. Persons wishing to be heard shall be afforded the opportunity.
Thank you very much. The public hearing is now open. Is there any members of the public who wish to speak on this matter? Hearing none.
Hi, I'm sorry. This is Alec Birdsong. I'm with National Grid.
You have the
I
floor.
just want I wanted you all to know that I'm available for. And just to make sure this is the entire 90 feet, the entire installation of 90 feet. I thought I heard 25, but I just wanted to make sure about that.
Clerk, could you please just give the measurements again as part of that public hearing notice?
It is at the intersection of Methuen Street at Appleton Street, specifically beginning at point approximately 0 feet east of the center line of the intersection of Appleton and Methuen Streets, and continuing approximately 153 feet in an easterly direction from pole 3288 Methuen Street. National Grid proposes installation of approximately 25 feet of 2 to 4 inch of concrete encased conduit for commercial service upgrade located at 9 Appleton Street, Lawrence, Mass.
Thank you. Does that jive with your proposal, Mr. Birdsong?
I'll let Dave Boucher speak. He's here to support me. He's also with National Grid.
Okay.
Hey guys,
Dave?
hey guys, Dave Boucher. That that petition was sent in as 25 feet. It was previously put in for 90 feet in the drawing because there was some question about whether or not Prescott Place, which is located there, is a public way. If it's not a public way, then we'll only need 25 feet. But if it is considered a public way, then we need 90 feet. So we'd like to say that all of the 90-foot run, if it is in the public way and Prescott Place is public way, we need to have the rights for that. Pretty much, that's pretty much the deal there. I had checked it out today on online, and it looked like Prescott Place was actually public property. I'm not sure. Does that kind of explain why there's a little bit of question about the distance?
And that's fine. We're going to keep the public hearing open, and I'm very confident we're going to have some questions. Anybody else wish to speak on this matter? Any public hearing? No, so the public hearing is now closed. I think let's entertain a motion, and then we can entertain a discussion as to should it be amended. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by the Council Vice President. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Anna Levy. Discussion, and I think this is the time where we need to get some clarification as to how we should proceed with the measurements based on the contingencies, right? So Councilor Stella Reyes, you have the floor. Did you want to pursue this line of questioning?
Yes, I think we should go with the proper measurement, which they have to provide, and add it to the motion.
I believe in the document, it shows the 90 feet, but it's not describing the distance. It may say the distance in the wording that you have, but in the actual sketch that we sent to you, it shows the 90 feet, and it shows it on Prescott Place. So that might be, something that could help us clarify things.
So what will be the proper measurement?
I don't have the verbal the text in front of me to tell you. I know you just read it, but I don't have it right in front of me. So.
Okay, so in this case, how do we are going to proceed? I think we just have to approve pending that piece of information. If you all, all the rest of the council, they wish to pass it at this time.
Council Vice President, if you could indulge me, my understanding is that Prescott Way is a public way. And if Mr. McCarthy is with us, and I'm not sure that he is, he certainly can confirm that. Mr. McCarthy, are you still with us? Rather than just going for my word on that, I do want to hear from someone with a bit more authority with that assertion. I think, Councilor Vice President, I think you're going in the right direction, in my opinion, of having a contingency. If it's one, then we do a certain length. If it's another, then we do a second thing. And maybe that could be part of your motion.
Say it again. I couldn't get that.
No, that's fine. So I think what might be helpful, Vice President, is if we can confirm a contingency. So if it is a public way, then X number of feet.
Right.
And if it's not a public way, then it's another set of feet. So would the members of National Grid, once again, if it is a public way, what's the measurement?
90 feet, yep.
And if
as it's shown in the drawing, if you look at the drawing, it shows 90 feet, and that's what we want. If Prescott is a public way, 90 feet. If it's not a public way, 25 feet.
Not a public way. And I think that, I think the counselor, former Counselor Burnell is with us. She might be able to provide some assurance for us. Counselor Burnell, are you with us?
I am on the call, Council President, only because this recently came up to the police department's attention where there was cars being parked on Prescott Way, which is the small alley that runs behind Galaxia nightclub, formerly known as the Hibernian Hall. That is a public alley or a public way. Someone who was using it for their dumpster and they could not access the dumpster because people were using it as a parking lot, but it truly is a public way. Alex Vega and Dan McCarthy did verify that for the police department so that we could notify car owners if they had to move their cars, as it was not a parking lot, it's a public way. And so we did just recently verify that within the last month. So I know that it's fresh on my mind because of that. So I know that that is a public way.
Council Vice President, with that, if just to remind us all, if it is a public way, we're looking for 25 feet. Is that right, National Grid?
No, the other way around. If it is a public way, we need 90 feet as it's shown in the drawing there.
If it is public way, so that is how we probably, if we feel comfortable with Councilor Burnell's assertion, then we should go with the 90 feet.
90 feet, yeah.
So, Council Vice President, I'm sorry to hijack this conversation a little bit. I turn this back to you.
No, we gotta do what we gotta do. 90 feet. So where are we standing now?
So your motion is then to reflect 90 feet. Is that accurate? Okay.
Yeah, that's the measurement. That's the number, right?
That's the number that we're hearing since it is right. It is a public way.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's going to be part of my motion. Yes.
Okay. Are anybody else wish to speak on this matter? Are we all clear with what the motion is?
Could I add just one little thing? I do have access to sending something via email right now, if you'd like. It shows how it's a public way, and it shows that 90 feet, and makes things a little more clear. I'm not sure if you want to look at it today or tomorrow. I could send it tomorrow.
It sure sounds as though we're all on the same page then, which is
okay.
Right. So I think what you have is going to affirm our motion. So I think unless the council wants to see it, we're hearing yes on all this. So if there's no other discussion on this matter, this is probably the right time to call the motion. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Levy,
Yes.
Councilor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Abdul,
Yes.
Councilor Payano, Councilor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez, noted. Councilor Estela Reyes,
Yes.
Council President LaPlante.
Yes, motion carries, and thank you for your indulgence, councilors. Next document is document number 4821. Clerk, please read the public hearing.
Notice is hereby given that the Lawrence City Council will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 18th, 2021 at 7 p.m. at a public meeting conducted by electronic means with public viewing, listening, participation, and input provided remotely in compliance with public gathering limitations in effect. Purpose of said hearing is to gather testimony, information, and public input concerning the proposed amendment to the revised ordinances of the City of Lawrence to be further amended by adding the following new paragraph to section 10.36.330 of the municipal code. Bus stops, taxi stands, ambulance stands, and service zones to be inserted in the proper alphabetical order. C, service zones, Conduit Street, each side from a point 60 feet northerly of the intersection of Knox Street to a point 80 feet northerly of the intersection of Knox Street. To the extent that there exist any ordinances to the contrary, they are hereby repealed in that respect only. Persons wishing to be heard shall be afforded the opportunity.
The public hearing is now open. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this matter? Hearing none, the public hearing is now closed. Councilors, what is your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Councilor Selena Reyes to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by whom again? I'm sorry.
Second.
Second by Councilor Vice President Stella Reyes. Discussion. Hearing none. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Estela Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez. Noted. Councilor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Councilor Payano,
Yes.
Councilor Abdu,
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilor Levy, Councilor Levy,
Yes.
Council President LaPlante.
Yes, the motion carries. The last public hearing this evening is document 6821. Clerk, please read the public hearing notice.
Notice is hereby given that the Lawrence City Council will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 18th, 2021 at 7 p.m. at a public meeting conducted by electronic means with public viewing, listening, participation, and input provided remotely in compliance with public gathering limitations in effect. The purpose of said hearing is to gather testimony, information, and public input concerning the proposed amendment to the revised ordinances of the City of Lawrence to be further amended by adding the following subparagraph to section 10.28.050 of the municipal code, one-way streets at certain times. Hamlet Street from the intersection of South Bowden Street to the intersection of Jefferson Street in an easterly direction from 7:15 a.m. to 8:15 a.m. and then from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. beginning immediately on passage of this ordinance through June 30th of 2021 while school is in session. Thereafter from 7:15 a.m. to 8:15 a.m. and then from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. beginning September 1st through June 30th of each year while school is in session. Further, be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Lawrence that the revised ordinances of the City of Lawrence are hereby further amended by deleting the following subparagraph to section 10.28.050 of the municipal code, one-way streets at certain times. Hamlet Street from the beginning of South Bowden Street to the intersection of Jefferson Street in an easterly direction from 7:15 a.m. to 8:15 a.m. and then from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. beginning September 1st through June 30th of each year or any day school is in session. To the extent that there exist any ordinances to the contrary, they are hereby repealed in that respect only. Persons wishing to be heard shall be afforded the opportunity.
Thank you. The public hearing is now open. Is there any members of the public who wish to speak on this matter?
Good evening, honorable members. Humayun Mali, 53 Chester Street. Your Honor, as honorable member knows, the Robert Frost School located at District E, and then the children has been used to for many years to that ordinance. That ordinance established and passed by the honorable member of the City Council for the safety of our children. I remember one busy day in traffic and the time of pickup, wonderful safety officer James Mealy, that time was stationed at Robert Frost School, suggested such a changing of the ordinance. This ordinance has been designed for the safety of our children and creating chaos, removing the chaos, also for understanding all the people and the neighborhood that live around Robert Frost School. So changing that requires that changing the sign, even though as honorable members knows that during the summer, because of the pandemic, a school might continue education of our children at Robert Frost School. So there is not basically a summer vacation. So changing that ordinance and modifying this ordinance, it can backfire in and goes against the primary purpose of such an ordinance to making Hamlet Street as a one-way street. So respectfully, on behalf of citizens, request of you do not modify such an ordinance since designed for safety of our children. But we're thanking Officer James Mealy and thanking Superintendent for supporting him. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public that wishes to speak?
I would like to speak on that.
You have the floor. Name and address, please, for the record.
Sure, Kelly Staniszewski, 47 Hamlet Street. So it's coming before a vote tonight, but it's already been put in effect. So the signs have been changed 1 to 4, and there is people blocking off the street during that time frame at Jefferson. What I'm proposing, and I'm fine, I want the kids to be safe, but most drop off and pickups, they pull along the curb and they drop their kid off at the curb and pick up at the curb. What we're doing on Hamlet Street is blocking both lanes of traffic. So we have parking on both sides on Hamlet Street, and then we have blocking of traffic where people are getting out even on the left of the lane. So there's no EMS that could get by. And then also where the buses exit, it's a one-way, but they're also going down Frost Street, which is a two-way street. It's very small. There's cars on both sides. The bus can't even fit through there, which backs up traffic. There's also another concern because Cleveland and Monroe both open up to Hamlet Street. So on the part of South Baldwin, that is not blocked off or nobody is monitoring that, but you can come down Cleveland and you can come down Monroe and exit the opposite way during those time frames. There's been many a times when I'm driving down the right way of the street, but I have people coming at me. So I would like the Frost Drive to be a one-way and have the person that overlooks handicap parking or the one-way street on Ware to kind of overlook that, because I don't believe that both lanes need to be blocked in order to drop off and pick up. So if you had that whole sidewalk cleared where there was no parking, parents could pull up right to the curb and safely drop off their kids. So I'm okay with the ordinance through the end of this year, but I would like it revisited for the following year and years to come, especially that Frost Drive street.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the public that wishes to speak on this matter? Hearing none, the public hearing is now closed. The councilors, what is your pleasure?
Motion to approve?
Motion by Council Vice President Estela Reyes is to approve. I believe it was Councilor Selena Reyes who seconded. Am I right?
Yes.
Seconded by Councilor Selena Reyes. Discussion, Mr. Payano.
Thank you, Council President. Is there, so from what we heard from one of the residents, they were saying that these changes have already occurred. I have not driven by Hamlet in several weeks, so I'm not aware of that. Is there someone from the city that can talk to us? I mean, my concern is if we're currently voting on changing things, changing the law right now, did someone already make those changes before we get a chance to vote? Like, that just sounds off to me. So I just want to see if someone can clear that up for us.
Ms. Hernandez, are you with us to chat on this matter?
Sure. Good evening, councilors. Councilor Payano, I forget the legal term here. We received an emergency order through the police department. Chief Vask worked with our city attorney.
Ms. Hernandez, if you don't mind, just because not everybody knows who you are, I know I do, and others, just your name and your organization.
Of course, my apologies. Odanis Hernandez, I'm the acting chief operating officer for Lawrence Public Schools.
Thank you. Continue. I apologize.
That's okay. No, thank you. As you know, we started school a little later this year, so students return back to school April 5th. Understanding that this is a one-way every year, we requested through the principals, requested that we can bring this matter to do a temporary order to turn Hamlet Street to a one-way, considering the new school hours, which is 8 to 1 p.m. Where there's the sign right now, or before this was reading to begin at 2 p.m. So that was not in alignment with what our current school hours are. So we received, as we were processing this or requesting to put this on the council agenda, to go through the proper motion. We also, Chief Basque from the Lawrence Police Department, in collaboration with our city attorney, Raquel Ruano, worked on a temporary legal order to make the changes until we can come to city council and order the public hearing and then hear from the residents. The school drafted a memo to provide to all the residents in that neighborhood, alerting them of the temporary order and change, so that the residents were aware that this change was going to take effect, and hoping that at this meeting it will become effective. So the change was made through the city based on that legal temporary order that we have.
Through you, Council President. So I would ask Ms. Hernandez if you could make sure that, in particular, especially if this is voted favorably on, if you could just forward that on to tomorrow or the day after, if you can forward that documentation that you're speaking about, because that wasn't in our packets.
Sure, I'll be happy to do that. My apologies for not sharing that.
Could I possibly ask another question?
It's not in order right now. I'm sorry. This is the council's discussion at this point. Are there any other councilors who wish to speak or ask a question? Mr. Abdu.
Thank you, Mr. LaPlante. Mr. Donius, thank you. Appreciate our conversations on the matter. So the document that Councilor Payano, that went to each of the residents on Hamlet Street? And did that go out at the beginning of the emergency order or more recently?
That one now, I think it was at the same time. We weren't sure when the emergency order and change was taking place. I believe working through DPW, the person happened to be on vacation. So I received the memo from the school that and immediately that day they were going to share with residents, and that was the 23rd of April.
Thank you. Thank you. No further questions, Mr. President.
Good. Is there any other members of the council who wish to speak on this matter? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. President?
Hold on for 1 second, clerk. Councilor Levy.
Yes, there is any way that we can get a copy of the letter that was sent to the residents?
Yes, sorry. I'm working on actually, I couldn't unmute myself fast enough because I was searching my email. I have it and I can forward. I'm happy to also share the screen if you guys want to take a quick look at what the letter looks like. But I'm working on sending that email right now, Councilor Levy.
What I didn't hear is who was the person who authorized to start doing this before coming in front of us?
It was an emergency. Again, I apologize for the legal. I may not have the correct term. It was an emergency order requested and drafted through the city attorney Raquel Ruano and in collaboration with Chief Vasque from the Lawrence Police Department. And my understanding and my knowledge is that they have the authority to do this temporary emergency order until we can go through the proper motion and process to bring this matter before City Council, which we did. Then it was sent over to Ordinance Committee, which we discussed and I presented there. It was sent back to you guys for a favorable recommendation and a public hearing, and that's why we're here today. But in the meantime, because school had started on the 5th, and because school was starting, that's why the emergency order is in effect.
But at least that's, that kind of notice, say, okay, as an emergency or whatever. I'm not opposed to that, but at least they should be saying something, to us as the city council, and let it know that it's going to go out. It's an emergency, we know and we understand, but at least they should be informing the council.
Ms. Hernandez,
That's
would
I'm sorry.
you have the floor. My apologies, I interrupted you. You have the floor, Ms. Levy.
No, that is okay. That is my comments that, that we should inform of things that it's going to happen. It's okay. We know and we understand that this is an emergency, but at least, they know or something that should be sent to us, just letting know, so we have an emergency and we're going to do this or that, whatever.
Thank you.
Mr. President. And thank you, Danny.
Ms. Hernandez, would you be willing to share your screen? And while you're doing that, I I guess some house cleaning stuff with respect to these things. There is a shelf life, is my understanding, that the police department, with the guidance of this from the city attorney, does have that authority to do that unilaterally without consulting the city council. So they exercise that during this particular sort of situation, but that is not in perpetuity. There's a shelf life, there's a standard, and I think my understanding, again, I'm not from that area, but my understanding is that that when this thing expires, there needs to be something else. So that perhaps that explains why you might see some of those signs, as Ms. Odense was saying. There we go. Show the screen. Thank you. If you could explain what we're seeing.
Point of information, Mr. President.
Mr. Abdu.
I believe that it is grounded in the authority of the police chief for up to 60 days.
Thank you, Mr. Abdu. Thank you.
Okay.
This is the kind of like the memo or the one pager that the principals at the Frost Complex drafted to share with all the residents that were going to be affected by this as a notice that Hamlet was going to turn into a one-way traffic. And again, this one-way traffic situation didn't take effect until DPW was able to get over and change the signs per the emergency order.
Okay.
So we had about 2 weeks of school, or a week and a half or 2 weeks of school against in-person learning for students. Students returned to the Frost Elementary on April 5th. And then we welcomed middle school students April 28th. I mean, it was kind of like in that in between. That sign was not changed until I believe after school April vacation, so that for when middle school students started, this memo was drafted and was being distributed the week of April 23rd.
Is that the totality of the pamphlet? I'm presuming it is, correct?
It just has a nice picture at the end.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your screen. I think we're all set. If you can just return the screen back, that'd be great.
Mr. President.
Who's asking for the floor? Mr. Abdu?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I just want to, with that visual on the screen moments ago, just note that this is in effect for approximately another 3 weeks, or let's say the end of the academic year. It did not state that on the form, but Ms. Adonis Ms. Hernandez did make that comment earlier, and it is in the written material. So it's important for those watching from home that this is a limited, if you will, a limited ordinance that will expire in a few weeks, which I'm not sure if it's the end of the academic year or a date certain, but it's certainly in June.
Mr. Piano, are you asking for the floor?
Yes, please.
It is yours.
Thank you. So my question is directed to Councilor Abdu, just as being the district counselor. Like I know, like every time I'm in that neighborhood, it's one of the, at least on Jefferson Street, pick up and drop off time is like the number one conversation with the residents there. I think in other places, you talk about like potholes, you talk about like, recycling and trash. On Jefferson Street, you better like, understand the issue and like the history, and you'll have folks that will go back like 15, 20 years, right? So in this particular issue with Hamlet, I mean, it's smaller, right? I just wanted to just hear from you, like your take, if you've heard from residents there. And we did hear from a resident, which I'm very glad that, I think anytime that residents come up and they speak about whether they're for or against, do you agree or disagree? I think, having that opportunity to speak to all the councils is great. But since you're closer, to the neighborhood, I would love to hear sort of your take if you've heard from any of the residents yourself.
Sure, Mr. President, for you.
Yes.
No, thank you, Councilor Piano. You've characterized it pretty good, and I'm familiar with the resident who spoke earlier, and have heard from one other specific to this. But the greatest concern is the width. The width of Hamlet is actually extraordinarily wide for such a street in a residential area. I think a lot of us councilors would die for that width of a road where we have parking issues and other congestion issues. What happens though is that creates two problems. One is cars of speed. So I hear that a lot, that cars speed on Hamlet Street. Parents trying to get out, non-school parents, and I think that has to do with the function of the width. Did seem to be curbed last year to an extent by the speed bumps, but yet I did continue to hear speed was a concern. The other issue, which probably pertains closest to the school, is parents blocking driveways. Parents, I shouldn't blame parents, but there are individuals during those rush hours that park in front of driveways. They do like the mad dash. I was there when I was a parent, get the child in the school, get back out, get in your car. And sometimes there's a concern that there could be a lack of respect for the residents of Hamlet Street. And so those are the two things I guess I would hear most, and that is speed and respect of people's driveways and properties.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you.
All right. I think we may have exhausted the discussion on this. If there's no further comments or questions, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Levy,
Yes.
Councilor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Abdu,
Yes.
Councilor Payano,
Yes.
Councilor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez, noted, Councilor Estela Reyes,
Yes.
Council President LaPlante.
Yes, the motion carries. No further communications from mayor, city officials, no resolutions, appropriation orders and requests for new files. 9321 appropriation transfer from free cash to fire suppression overtime and fire suppression permanent salaries is going to the Budget and Finance Committee. Committee reports, Budget and Finance Committee. Mr. Abdu, Chair of the Budget and Finance Committee, document 7321.
Thank you, Mr. President. Document number 7321, prior year invoices, ST Math annual services in the amount of $2,930, submitted by Ms. Jordan, the Chief Financial Officer of Lawrence Public Schools, was May 12th. Unanimously voted in favor of, with a favorable recommendation, and I submit that to you in the form of a motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded by Counselor Selena Reyes, I believe. Discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Estela Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez, noted. Councilor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Councilor Payano,
Yes.
Councilor Abdu,
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilor Levy,
Yes.
Council President LaPlante.
Yes, the motion carries. The next document is document 7821. Mr. Abdu.
Yes, Budget Finance Council committee met on May 12th and voted by unanimous vote, the favorable recommendation of item number 7821, order to expend grant funds SSY program up to $5,000 as submitted by former Councilor Brunel, and I submit it to you in the form of a motion.
Second.
Made and seconded by Counselor Estela Reyes. Discussion.
Mr. President,
Mr. Abdu.
I would just note that in your records, there is your committee report. There is an error. I read it, what I believe to be correct, but I would suggest that people just take another look at that. The order is to expend up to 5,000 for SSY as opposed to what is on the document. That's
So we're totally clear. The motion is to spend up to $5,000 for this SSY program, and that should be reflected in the motion. Any further discussion on this matter?
I do. I have a question.
Counselor De La Cruz.
Yes. I love that program because it takes the kids out of the street and they spend a lot of time working with the police department. Why so low amount of money when they need a lot of money to work with the youth? That's the question for Ms. Bernard.
Former Counselor Brunel, are you with us? I believe you
Hi,
are.
Counselor.
There
I
you go.
just need to get off mute. I apologize. So you may recall just a few months ago, the council actually approved a very large grant for the SSYI of $700,000. So this is just an additional funds because of COVID. The state provided some supplemental funding to a few organizations. One of them is SSYI, and they're giving them $5,000 to pay for things that they would not normally have needed, but due to COVID, they do. So like they have to have their staff working remotely more. So they wanted to provide people, the staff usually uses their own cell phones and uses it rarely for work purposes. They want to make sure everyone had a quality cell phone that they could use to reach out to their the youth that they work with remotely. So they upgraded the phones of the staff. You know, the state granted them a very specific dollar amount and then approved what they could use it for. And then we were granted those funds, and now we are seeking your approval to actually release those funds to them. But it's strictly a very small amount because they got a very large grant, and it's just for COVID-related expenses that they would not normally have anticipated in a regular year.
Wish they could allow more.
Thank you very much, Counselor De La Cruz. Any other counselors wish to speak on this matter? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Levy,
Here.
Councilor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Abdu,
Yes.
Councilor Payano,
Yes.
Councilor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez, noted. Councilor Estela Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor President LaPlante.
Yes, the motion carries. The next document is document number 7921, Budget Committee Chair, Mr. Abdu. Committee report, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. May 12th, Budget and Finance Committee recommended by unanimous vote the favorable recommendation of item number 7921, order to expend grant funds, Shannon Grant, up to $25,000 as submitted by Ms. Burnell. I submit that to you in the form of a motion.
Motion made
Okay.
and seconded by Counselor Selena Reyes. Discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Estela Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez, noted. Councilor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Councilor Payano,
Yes.
Councilor Abdu,
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilor Levy,
Yes.
Council President LaPlante.
Yes, the motion carries. The next document is document 80A
Thank you very
Aye.
much, councilors.
/21, Budget Committee Chairman, Mr. Abdu.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, rather. May 12th, Budget and Finance Committee recommended by unanimous vote the favorable recommendation of item 80A 21, the acceptance of grant funds, mass development in the amount of $9,000. And I submit that to you in the form of a motion.
Motion made,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Gonzalez. Discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please call Mr. Abdu.
I would just note, and it applies to the next item as well, that there was a robust and lengthy discussion on the original item 8021. It was broken in two, and you will see that reflected in the next item. This item here was pretty straightforward, so I would leave that with you, Mr. President.
Very good. Any other discussion on this matter? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Levy,
Present.
Councilor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Abdu,
Yes.
Councilor Payano,
Yes.
Councilor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez, noted. Councilor Estela Reyes,
Yes.
Council President LaPlante.
The president votes yes. I just, as the clerk, I'm having a hard time hearing one of our members, and I just, not to call that member out. What's the roll call vote on that last one? How many voted yes? How many voted present? How many not voted? How many voted no? What's the roll call?
Seven present, no, 7 yes, 1 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. That answers my question. Thank you. The next
Thank you.
document 80B 21. Mr. Chairman of the Budget Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will admit to not having the committee report here. However, from memory, as a matter of fact, I can't do it from memory because this was the more challenging part. We broke out the 9,000 from the 45,000. And I may ask of your indulgence if either Mr. Payano or another member of the committee could refresh my memories. I don't have the document in my package. And I don't have the memory.
Mr. Payano?
Through you, Council President, thank you. So if I recall correctly, so we voted to send this up with a favorable recommendation, but I forget what the wording was, if it was pending or, essentially we said that we would vote for this favorably to send to the full council, but what we required were either two documents, either one, something wording from the city attorney, essentially stating that approval of this document was not an approval of the ordinance, or two, a letter from TDI essentially saying that if they gave us the, what was it, 45,000, whatever the money is, 36,000, that if they gave us the $36,000, that that did not mean that we needed to approve the ordinance. So it was a pretty lengthy sort of like addition, a condition that we set with that.
If it's helpful, for whatever reason, I happen to see this, I can just read the committee report if that's helpful to the members of the council. And I think the Councilor Payano is, right on target here. Says the acceptance of grant funds for mass development of $36,000 with a contingency that the acceptance of the $36,000 is not a city council approval of an ordinance change grant assurance letter from Mass Development stating the acceptance will not change the city ordinance. And that was for document 80B. Does
Yes.
that sound about right, members? And you were
Yes.
there?
Yep.
I
Okay.
can confirm that's right. My
Okay.
notes.
Oh, good. Okay. So, Mr. Abdu, is that your motion essentially after all that?
With an assist from Mr. Payano and yourself, yes.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Discussion.
Second by Mr. Payano.
No, I didn't second it.
Who seconded that? I'm sorry.
Gonzalez.
I did, sir.
Mr. Gonzalez got the second on that. Discussion, Mr. Payano.
Discussion.
Yep.
Thank you. Councilor Plant, this is the motion is to favorable, right?
Came across as a 3-1, 3-0 vote, 1 abstain, full council favorable recommend.
Oh, no, I'm asking what the motion is in front of the council right now.
Oh, right now, yes, is it favorable right now?
Yeah, so when we discussed this at the public safety meeting, as I mentioned before, so one of the concerns was with the document that was sent to us, what the letter had written, what the letter stated was that they would give us this money if they would give us the $36,000 if the city council passed a certain ordinance around this project. Now, I will say that I am someone who is in favor of the project, like big picture, but I don't know the details. So I myself, and I think other council members, what they were stating was just that there was some concerns about us essentially approving using money without us approving the ordinance, sort of like doing things backward. Mr. Soto, who, if he's here, I would love it if he could speak. What he had stated was that there were conversations with TDI, which basically would allow them to use the money while we work through creating ordinances for that. So our big concern was, well, what if the city council says, you know what, we don't want to do an ordinance, right? Because at the end of the day, we never know how the city council will move forward on a specific item. So what if the city council doesn't want to move forward with that? Like, what happens to this money? It was under our impression when we initially proposed it up was that we didn't have to worry about that. That TDI was essentially just giving us the money, and if we can create an ordinance, great. If we couldn't, it is what it is. Since then we haven't gotten language from the city attorney, but regardless of that, it sounds like even if we have language saying we'll take the money, but this does not mean that that we're approving an ordinance, was TDI has said from a letter that Mr. Soto sent to all of us, is that we can use the money, but if we do not approve an ordinance on this, I don't know if they set a timeline, we would then have to give them back the money. So that's a really big, concern of mine. So while I was in favor of the first $9,000, which is essentially to start the process on creating these ordinance changes, and the 9K, I think they're going to hire a consultant or something like that to start that process. Like, I think I'm all in favor of that, but for us to basically spend the money without knowing what this ordinance is going to look like, I'm a little worried about that, and so I'm not going to be voting in favor of this motion, just because I don't think that it's sort of putting it's doing things backwards. So that's my statement, and I think if Mr. Soto is here, it'd be great to sort of give him an opportunity to speak on this particular motion. And perhaps I'm under the wrong impression, but I'm reading, just reading that letter word for word. What it said was that if we do not pass an ordinance, we have to pay back that money.
Is that a question to Mr. Soto? And Mr. Soto, are you with us?
I am, Councilor.
Would you care to
So
address?
Councilor Plant, so it's not a question, but I do want to give him the floor so he can, because I think it's important to allow him to speak on, the project itself.
Mr. Soto, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, City Council President. Sorry for the echo. Councilor Payano, thank you so much for the opportunity and kind of really thinking through, some of the issues with this grant. If I could, I would like to offer some background for the grant. So last June, we were really in the throes of the pandemic, right? So one of the things that I was working on with former Mayor Rivera and City Council President at the time, Kendris Vasquez, was really looking at ways to help small businesses, in particular restaurants, kind of fare a little bit better economically in the really difficult financial times. So one of the things that we decided to do was really start looking at and how outdoor dining so that businesses had a chance of surviving. And one of the mechanisms that we really tried to employ was an emergency outdoor dining ordinance. So we did that in partnership with ISD, with the police department, with the fire department, obviously City Council President Kendris Vasquez, as well as former Mayor Rivera. And we crafted this outdoor dining ordinance with the understanding that this was a pilot program. We wanted to understand how it was going to really impact businesses and support them. And we wanted to come back to the table this year to look at opportunities to create a permanent outdoor dining ordinance if, in fact, we saw that businesses were benefiting from this program. Last year, we had 18 businesses that participated. And through that program, we were able to secure $50,000 from the Shared Streets program from MassDOT. And we were able to match that $50,000 with emergency funding from the federal government. So about $100,000 went out to those small businesses to help them get wares and furniture to place in their outdoor seating area. So we're here, at this part of I guess the life of that particular emergency ordinance to really help form a permanent outdoor dining ordinance. Since inception, and I apologize, I'm outside and folks have some fireworks out here, but since inception, the goal really was to help small businesses, restaurants in particular. And we enjoyed the support of former City Council President Vasquez and all the city councilors that we've encountered in our quest really to help small businesses and restaurants. We saw this as a really great opportunity. A lot of the businesses, I'd say by and large, 95% of the businesses, 99% of the businesses had a really great experience. And the ones that that didn't, that may have not had the bandwidth to serve outdoors, El Taller, as an example, we did set up a location for them, but they were short-staffed and could not execute. But we really wanted to understand what their concerns are, the businesses that felt that we can improve, and we want to roll that in those experiences into a new ordinance. So we are reconvening that initial group, kind of in the form of a wraparound.
Mr. Soto? Well, I think we just lost him. So
Can you hear me?
now we can hear you. Yeah, welcome back.
Sorry about that. So really the goal of this particular funding, there's two pieces of it. There's $45,000 from Mass Development to continue this effort in forming an ordinance that really supports the restaurants. That comes in two parts. The first part, like Councilor Payano mentioned, is $9,000 that will help support the zoning amendment, kind of for a professional to guide us through that process with the departments that I mentioned in our committee to craft the actual language of text. The second part is to manufacture an outdoor seating area using a 20-foot shipping container. If you've driven by Essex Street, El Taller actually has a yellow shipping container. That is the same model that we would build. We actually built that last year with Shared Streets dollars from MassDOT. again, as a pilot program for businesses that did not have the capacity to, close up shop every day and bring furniture inside. This is a self-enclosed seating area that they can use to serve their clientele. So one of the issues I think that came up in the committee hearing was that, the initial language that was submitted did read that Mass Development would disperse $9,000 first, and then they would issue $36,000 upon favorable approval of the outdoor dining ordinance. I did mention to the committee that since I submitted that language, I did have the opportunity to speak to my colleagues at Mass Development who oversee the program and express to them that if the money was dispersed in the way that it was described, it would, conceivably, it could take a couple of weeks, maybe 2 or 3 months to pass an ordinance. That would put us in the middle of the summer, and it takes about 8 weeks for delivery once we order the shipping container to be manufactured. So we could go this whole season without benefiting from an additional container, another restaurant that can benefit from an outdoor seating area. That, when I brought that concern to Mass Development, they did issue a second letter, which I provided to Councilors Rodriguez and Payano, which states that they Mass Development feels comfortable to release the complete $4,500 first, with the understanding that if we are unable to get the ordinance passed, outdoor dining ordinance, that we would be required as a city to give the money back. That is true, it does say that, but I would offer to the council that that's really the understanding with any grant that we receive from any federal or state entity. If we don't execute and perform, we have to give the money back. That's not the case with all grants, but it is the general understanding. So I would offer to the council that I think Mass Development spell that out in text, but it's the spirit of the work that we do through grant funding really is that if we can't execute, we would have to give that money back. So I'd offer that. And one thing that I see here is that we have a lot of support both in the business community as well as in the mayor's office for this ordinance. There's so many great benefits to this particular effort, and I would just with that just really ask for your favorable recommendation tonight, favorable vote on this piece, and I'd be happy to continue discussions with any councilors who have any concerns that we can address. But I would ask for a favorable recommendation tonight to move the process along, and I'm here to answer any questions I may not have covered in that.
Thank you, Mr. Soto. Mr. Payano, you still have the floor if you wish to have it.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you, Mr. Soto, for speaking on it. I wanted to make sure that I gave you that we gave you the opportunity to speak in favor of this. So what I'll say is, we had a lengthy conversation about this. I think there's some miscommunications, Mr. Soto, between sort of what you were expressing or maybe what we were understanding. I think initially what we were understanding was that the $36,000 was there was nothing attached to it. I think it was Councilor Rodriguez or myself. One of us mentioned, that in the letter it had said that the remaining $36,000 in the TDI challenge funds will be released following a successful city council vote. So the conversation then turned into, well, if this is what the letter says, that essentially that this money is going to be released after the vote, how does, what does that mean? And I think we engaged in that conversation. We kind of understood. We had this impression, I voted in favor of it because I had this impression that even if we did not vote from again, miscommunication on my end. My understanding from what you were saying was that even if we would, a year from now, decide not to vote in favor of an ordinance, and God knows, like sometimes ordinances take 3 or 4 years, right? That if we decide not to vote in favor of one of these ordinances, that we can still use that money to, to buy this equipment. From the letter that you sent to myself, and I think it'd be great to send it to the full budget committee, if not the full council. What TDI was saying is just what you said, like just like any other grant, which is why there was so much confusion at the meeting, because we could not understand how we were like, oh, this is interesting that they'd be willing to give this grant money without, even if we don't follow through their original statement. So like, I'm completely aware how grants work, but going from your statement, we thought it was something something different. So now what we're hearing, it is how we initially said that basically we have to approve the ordinance. And the reason that I would say, I would caution the council for voting in favor of this is because we just don't know what this is yet, right? So we're essentially, I forget how that idiom goes, putting the cart before the horse, maybe that's the right, I don't know. But, we're essentially like, we're doing one thing before we're starting off the proper way. And the proper way is for us to get the policy in place and figure out what it is that we're approving and what it is that we're committing to before we actually make the monetary commitment. So that's my thought on it, because then it means that if we approve this and 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, we decide that actually this is not the right way to go, we are gonna have to, there's gonna be a penalty attached to that no vote. And even though I'm in favor of this project, I would love to know the policies. I think it's only fair for the council as a whole for us to get the full picture before we, we signed the check saying that we'll buy it. So I give back the floor to you.
Thank you very much. In anticipation of a 10 o'clock overage, is there a motion to go beyond 10 o'clock?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Abdu, seconded by Mr. Payano. If there's no discussion, I'll call the question. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Estela Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez, noted. Councilor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Councilor Payano,
Yes.
Councilor Abdu,
No.
Councilor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Gonzalez, Councilor Gonzalez, noted. Councilor Levy,
Yes.
Council President LaPlante.
Yes. What's the roll call vote on that, clerk?
6 yes, 1 no, 2 absent.
Thank you. Ms. De La Cruz, your hand is up. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Soto, I'm still confused about this grant. If we get this grant, we have to have the ordinance in place before using the money. If we don't use it, we're gonna be losing the opportunity to get it, right?
Should I respond to that, Counselor?
Yes, please.
Councilor De La Cruz, thank you. First off, I want to, apologize if, there was any confusion in the submittal to the council, as well as in any of the discussion that we had at the committee hearing. That was obviously not the intent. I would say that with matters like this, in trying to support small businesses, it's been moving really quickly. And our team in OPD has been working really diligently with a bunch of stakeholders and organizations, really trying to come to the rescue for a lot of businesses that are seeking city support. So I would say that perhaps in how fast things are moving, it may have been communicated not as clearly as I would have liked to communicate it. I would say that the grant proposal here it's in 2 parts. The first is, we want assistance to be able to craft an ordinance that really helps small restaurant owners serve outdoors, and for them to have really clear guidelines on how to serve, when to serve, here are the proper safety protocols in order to serve safely in public roadways or sidewalks that are wide enough to accommodate that. That's one part. And I think we would all agree that, you know, anything that the city can do to help small businesses, restaurants, you know, operate, I think it's definitely something we would support. One of the silver linings, if we can even say that, of I think the pandemic, is that folks are really starting to reimagine how we can use outdoor spaces, our public spaces, our parks, our sidewalks. People are starting to reimagine other possibilities, and this is exactly one of the things that have come out of the pandemic for us in Lawrence. Really looking at, hey, it's commonplace around the world to have outdoor dining, some places year round, even in cold climates. And we're really taking advantage of the fact that people are open, restaurateurs are now open to facilitating outdoor dining. And we really want to ensure that the health and safety of operators and patrons are taken care of by enacting this, you know, working with a host of stakeholders. And like I mentioned, the wraparound, you know, actors that we have at the city. We want to ensure that we're crafting a very clear, you know, guide for how to serve outdoors. So that's one piece. The second piece is really part two of what we started last summer. Last summer, we built a container that El Taller is piloting. And now we have the opportunity through this funding to build a second one. If you've driven by, or if you walked by El Taller, it's really, you know, encouraging to see, you know, young families, to see little kids with their mother or father really using this space and feeling comfortable on Essex Street, having a meal outdoors, spending, you know, dollars that can help a restaurant kind of stay afloat. So we have an opportunity, the second piece of the grant, which is unrelated to the first part. They run on two separate tracks. I can expand on that in a moment. They run on two separate tracks. So the dining ordinance does not dictate how the outdoor shipping container, the parklet, operates. In fact, the emergency outdoor dining ordinance is still in effect today. And we have, you know, close to another 15 restaurants that have applied. The same 18 restaurants that applied last year, all of their licenses have been extended to the end of this program year, which ends in November, so that they can facilitate outdoor dining. And you know, as the restrictions are lifted from COVID-19 at the end of the month, restaurants have another option to serve their clientele. So what I want to point out is there's really two tracks here that are completely unrelated to one another. The shipping container that we would like to order soon. And the first part that's outlined is, you know, the effort to craft a meaningful and clear outdoor dining ordinance that's more permanent, and really a second iteration of that emergency outdoor dining ordinance that was issued from the mayor's office last year in June. So,
Mr. Soto, we cannot delay this petition because it's already, the weather is already permitting those restaurants to open up. Then my recommendation is that we avoid the 30 days. My petition at this moment is to approve avoiding the 30 days wait, because otherwise it's going to be too late for those businesses to start the process and work out all the paperwork and to be able to open by the beginning of maybe June. Then my proposal is that.
Thank you. And if I could, Councilor, I do want to address one concern that Councilor Payano did have, which I think is really valid.
If we can quicken this up, because we're at 10 o'clock and we do have more things to deal with. So if you
Motion to pass 10.
Okay.
Motion to pass 10.
We already passed 10, Council Vice President. Yep. Go ahead, Mr. Soto.
And avoid the 30 days.
Mr.
Yeah.
Soto has the floor. He was answering a question, and then as soon as his question is done, well, we'll probably have a vote. Mr. Soto, finish your thought.
Thank you, Council President. What I wanted to say was, you know, in taking this money, accepting this money, you know, the city of Lawrence, like all municipalities, goes through a very rigorous process to approve, create any new ordinance. So there's no stipulation, you know, we can't, Mass Development is not assuming that accepting the money automatically, you know, says that we're going to pass some ordinance. There's a process that we need to go through, and I think our colleagues in Mass Development are well aware of that. I would just offer that there's no understanding that this stipulates an approval of any ordinance.
Motion to approve and avoid the 30 days.
There is already a motion on the floor. The motion has already been seconded.
Okay.
It's already been seconded. So at this point, if there's no further discussion on this matter,
Yes, I do have some discussion, Mr. President.
Councilor Levy, you have the floor.
Okay, so, Mr. Soto, one of the things that it was the concern of everyone at the budget committee was that what my Councilor Payano was saying, you know, that this money, so is part of something that said that we have to pass an ordinance in order for us to get the money. If we don't pass the money and we use it, we have to return the money. So the first $9,000 is, you know, was agreed to be used for something different. For the rest of the money, the $36,000 that we are talking right now, has some contingency right now that we have to return it if we use it, if we don't pass an ordinance. So we don't know the ordinance. And also we ask, you know, the advice from the city attorney that still we haven't get any advice or any letter on this regard, talking about the proposal. So at this point, I don't think so. That's, you know, I advise my councilors, okay, that we should not vote in favor because we don't know really in what we are putting the city regarding $36,000 that later, or we have to return it, or we're gonna get, you know, some fine, and maybe I don't know what is gonna happen in a couple of months, in a year or something, if we don't do this. That is a beautiful program. I know that you know that we want to make the city look great with all of these things on the street, the restaurant or whoever, you know, for people to enjoy their life and have something new in the city. But I don't want to compromise the city with $36,000. That's my concern.
Thank you. May I respond, Councilor President?
Did you wish to listen to the response, Councilor Levy?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Soto.
Thank you. Again, I would offer the council that all grant opportunities that we bring in through OPD, Mass Development in this letter did spell out the fact that they would expect the city to give the money back if we did not pass an ordinance or we did not execute on what we said the purpose of this grant is. You know, every grant that we work on has that stipulation. They're called clawback contingency, where if we do not execute, we are unable to execute for any reason, they're expecting that the money is returned. And I've seen instances where money has been returned. It may have not fit in the priority of a particular administration, and the money's returned. So I would offer that is not, you know, our intent is to pass this. This is a very important ordinance to help restaurants. I think we enjoy a lot of support in the mayor's office and in the business community, among others in the city. So our intent really is to pass this. We're not gonna working really diligently to make that happen.
Ms. Levy, you have the floor still. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Soto, about the information. Yes, I know and I understand myself, you know, that every grant is subject to whatever that we have to return if we don't do whatever they've been asking for. And that is something that I think that everybody understands that. But the thing is that we don't know what kind of ordinance they want us to pass by. I don't know what kind of things, and I don't know if we're gonna pass the ordinance. I don't know if we're gonna do it, or so why to compromise the city at this moment just for $36,000?
The purpose of the ordinance is to make very clear, concise regulations to help restaurants continue to serve outdoors into the future past the pandemic. That's the purpose of the grant, or the purpose of that ordinance. That's simply what it is. I don't see how that can compromise the city in any way.
Well, for me, I'm sorry, but I would like to hear, from the city attorney, and just on regard of whatever that they you submitted to us, and that we send it to her. And I would like to hear, her consent, or if this is something that we should get involved at this time.
Are you looking to make a motion to table, Counselor Levy, and instruct the city attorney to
I
give
would
it?
like to make a motion to table.
Motion to table, is there a second?
Just waiting for the
Seconded
letter
seconded
from
by
the
Counselor
city attorney.
Payano. No discussion on a roll call on a table matter. Clerk, please call the roll on the motion to table.
Councilor Estela Reyes. Councilor Estela Reyes.
No.
Councilor De La Cruz.
No.
Councilor Payano.
Yes.
Councilor Abdu. Councilor Abdu.
Sorry, mute button issues. Yes.
Thank you. Councilor Selena Reyes.
No.
Was that no?
I vote no, yes.
Thank you. Councilor Gonzalez. Noted. Councilor Levy.
Yes.
Council President LaPlante.
Yes. What's the roll call on that, clerk?
4 yeses, 3 noes, 2 absent.
Motion is still up, has not been tabled. Who has the floor?
Council President, I believe you said I did. I'll make this
Councilor
quick.
Payano.
Thank you, Council President. So what I'll say is and I don't expect, don't want any answer from Mr. Soto, but what I'll say is I'm a little frustrated sitting here. As someone who was pushing for this motion in the Budget Committee, I was under a different impression. I'm hearing, Mr. Soto talk to us about how grants work. I think all of us know how grants work. To the point, the issue, the reason it was one of our longest budget committees was because there was a back and forth, between Mr. Soto and one of our council members. And my impression was that this particular grant was going to work differently than how grants commonly work. That is not what we have before in front of us today. And I think that the idea, this is what I'm saying, like there's a miscommunication, but I think there's a huge miscommunication because like, it's not just myself, it's other council members were hearing something completely different. And now you're here saying something else. So, what we were hearing from you at the Budget Committee was that we can just use these funds. What we are getting from TDI and we're hearing from you is we can use these funds, but you're basically agreeing to the ordinance or else you have to give the money back, which is okay. Like that could be, the council can vote, can say right now, you know what, we don't really, like, we're gonna vote for this ordinance, anyways, we're gonna vote for this ordinance anyway. So let's just start this up. And that could be the case. But I think that is, man, that's the start to chaos. I think that the best way to proceed, we don't lose the original letter from TDI, councilors, the original letter from TDI said that we would get the $36,000 once we approve the ordinance. What we're trying to do right now is approve the grant before we approve the ordinance. That's not what TDI originally had asked. They were trying to go the normal way. We're trying to do something different, right? And it could be potentially that this ordinance comes in and we're talking about, the language comes in and the council does not vote for it. So I'll just leave it there. Everybody can make up their own mind. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you very much. I really want to move the question. Council Estela Reyes, Vice President, you have the floor, and please, we have an underlying motion on the floor. Let's get a vote on it. Council Vice President.
So what would it be, the motion that we have on the floor?
The motion on the floor right now, Clerk, I believe is to approve. Am I right? Madam Clerk? What is the current motion? I believe it is to approve this matter.
There was a motion to approve first, and then there was a motion to table, which failed.
That's
So
right.
motion to approve was first Abdu, seconded by Councilor Gonzalez.
So that's the underlying motion. So the motion that's going to go for a vote here in a moment is the motion to approve.
Okay, thank you.
I'm hoping there's no further discussion. And the clerk, I'll ask you to call the roll.
Yep. Councilor Estela Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez, noted. Councilor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Councilor Payano,
No.
Councilor Abdu,
No.
Councilor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Gonzalez, noted. Councilor Levy,
No.
Council President LaPlante.
No. What's the vote on that?
3 yes, 4 no, 2 absent.
Motion fails.
Motion to table?
That motion fails. There's already been a final on it. The motion fails. The next item is, I think that was our last, is that our last one? Nope, we got more. Document 8121 is the next item. I do believe we're going to be looking for someone else to read the committee report on that. Is that true?
Yes, Mr. President, Abdu recuses himself.
Mr. Abdu is recusing himself from document 8121. The next person that's available to speak, I believe, will be Mr. Payano. Would you be able to read the committee report?
Yes. Thank you, Council President. Document 8121, acceptance of grant funds, Mass DOT, Industrial Railroad Access Program, $356,670 was voted to, we voted to send this to the full council pending a request of documentations of contract from Mass DOT and the City of Lawrence. I'm presenting this as a committee report because the documentation from Mass DOT and City of Lawrence has not been received by the board or by the council.
So this is only to accept the committee report. I think it was seconded by Councilor Estela Reyes.
Yes.
Very good. Any discussion on the committee report? This is non-binding, of course. Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Levy,
This is only for this report, yes.
Correct.
Councilor Gonzalez, noted. Councilor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Abdu, abstain. Councilor Payano,
Yes.
Councilor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez, noted. Councilor Stella Reyes,
Yes.
Council President LaPlante.
Yes, the motion carries. I am now looking for a motion.
Motion to deny.
Second.
Motion to deny this has been made and it's been properly second. Any discussion?
Discussion.
Discussion?
Councilor LaPlante, so I'm Council President, Councilors. I'm not necessarily against this project, but there was documentation that the budget. So just to go over a little bit of the project. So essentially there is a portion of funds that the city would have to pay. I don't recall exactly right now. I think the number 40% is sticking to my mind. So there's a certain percentage that the City of Lawrence needs to pay. What we heard from the city, from Mr. Soto, was that the city wouldn't have to pay that because they've already sort of through in-kind sources, we've already sort of paid that amount. What we asked for, so hearing that, we voted in favor to send it to the full council, but it was pending that documentation, essentially saying that we had already paid this this amount. And if not, essentially what we were looking for was to find out what the amount the city would have to cover if we supported this project. This project is essentially it would is specific to a couple of private companies. So it would be helping them a lot. That's not saying that it's a bad project, but I think it's important for us to know how much is what is on the city's dime, right? And how much is the city spending on this? And then we can take into account if it's zero. For me, I think it's an easy sell, and I think it was an easy sell for the rest of the budget committee when it was zero. Not having any documentation, it could be more than zero. So the question is, what is that number? And also, does that number, is that something to spend? A good reason to sort of spend our funds for. So that's why it's currently as a motion to deny.
Councilor Delacruz, I also want to make a note of the clerk that Mr. Abdu is recused. He's not abstaining. It's a precise legal discussion in factor. So please note that he's recused. Councilor Delacruz.
Yes, Council President, thank you. What I'm saying is that this business are waiting to open up as soon as possible. Attorney Rano, she's very good in taking care of matters like that. She's very good in helping those people to create those ordinances as soon as possible. My concern is that those businesses, they won't be able to open in 30 days because we're holding them up here. I understand the situation with the grants and the money, who is, all of that. I'm sure that Ms. Rano has the capacity to deal with the issues and try to help out. If we detain this here, it's gonna take more than 20 days for them to come back to us. And then those business where I was very pleased in the summer when I was having the opportunity to visit any of those restaurants that were on the sidewalk, because I didn't want to go inside. I still don't want to go inside restaurants. But if they are outside, I will enjoy, and my family will enjoy it as well. Then we are holding this up for any reason. I will make a recommendation to send it to Attorney Rano. She is our advisor. She can tell us what is the pro and the con on those documents. But if we detain those documents here today, they won't be able to open by June 1st. Then we have to understand that those are business that some of them are improvising at this moment. Some of them, but some of them are already set up like El Taller, perfect, but they also need to be able to open up as soon as possible.
Just as a reminder, we are currently dealing with document 8121, which is dealing with the rail funds, just so that we're not losing our focus on that. But we do appreciate those comments. Are there any other city councilors who wish to comment on this matter? At this point, I am going to, just because we are lacking a number of people here, this is unusual. I would like to pass the gavel over to the Vice President so I could speak on this matter.
Okay.
And Vice President, you now have this gavel until this item is resolved, and I wish to have the floor.
Okay, I will second.
Thank you for the floor. This motion greatly concerns me. My understanding is that the city is not paying anything, and this has been this spur line, this ability to get this access road over there is tremendously important. It's been a long time coming. I'm a little concerned that if we vote to deny this thing, we are going to be making a significant mistake with respect to getting the monies to do this thing that's providing some relief to some of the businesses along that line. And it's very concerning. I'm going to be offering a motion shortly here to table this matter. because I would like for us to not vote to deny it. And have more opportunity to get more information, because I think that once that information comes out, it'll clarify and may give some relief and some assurances to those who are questioning it at this point. So if there's, Madam Chair, I don't want to stop anybody else from speaking, but I am intending to make a motion to table if I'm not stepping on anybody's toes.
Okay,
Madam
the
President?
motion is table document 8121. Can I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been made by Councilor President, who's passing the gavel to myself, and seconded by Selena Reyes, Councilor Selena Reyes. Roll call.
Councilor Levy,
No.
Councilor Gonzalez, noted. Councilor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Payano,
No.
Councilor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez, noted. Councilor Estela Reyes.
Yes. Can you give me the numbers? I think the motion failed.
Does the president also vote yes or no?
For Councilor President, yes. Sorry.
Just for the record, the chair is always the last to vote. So Councilor Estela Reyes, Vice President, would have been the last one to vote. I would have been voting before her. My
Yes.
vote is yes to table.
Okay.
So I got 4 yes, 2 no, 1 absent.
Madam Vice President,
Yes.
may I make a comment?
Yes, you can.
Again, for the record, this is Pedro Soto, Planning Director, City of Lawrence. I just wanted to make 2 points. At the time of the committee hearing, the documentation that was requested was not available yet from MassDOT. I am now in possession of that information. I will send it to a city clerk to disseminate through the counselors. It does include information pertaining to the 40% match. We were lucky enough with this particular project. The city did request some assistance from the T. The MBTA has yards across the Commonwealth where they store surplus material that is still really good to be used on projects. And MassDOT allowed our particular project to receive that material in kind. So close to between $500,000 and $600,000 of material is going towards the contribution. Typically, cities would have to give cash contributions. In our case, we do not have to do that because we've already satisfied, that piece with the material cost. I've been working really closely with our city engineer and as well as our DPW director, as well as some members of my team. That time is also in kind and goes towards the contribution. So we're actually really way over what our obligation is as a city to contribute in dollar value towards this project. This particular project will impact immediately 4 parcels, 4 businesses in the industrial yard. But it does have the potential in the future to tie up to 75% of some of the parcels or 75% of the parcels in the industrial park to access rail. The purpose of this program really is to take truck traffic off the roads. And this particular improvement will reduce truck traffic through the neighborhoods where it's traveling now by 1,000. We're estimating 1,000 trips a year. So jobs, a reduction in traffic trips through the neighborhood, as well as the potential for more jobs. So I will provide the information that's been requested, and I don't have a problem obviously with this being tabled. I welcome that. I'll provide that, and be happy to answer any other questions once that is submitted. And with that, I'll stop there.
Okay, Councilor President.
Just so I'm clear, thank you very much, Madam Chair. So just so I'm clear, there is no further city dollars because the city's already put the money into this account. So we have already maximized and have doled out all the money through in-kind contributions. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, you are, Council President.
So everything that we're voting for at this point is new money coming in. We've already spent the money. It's already been in. It's already been accounted for. The city, everything else, and all this is going to mean is more business and ability to grow and make more efficient that industrial park complex. Am I missing something here, Mr. Soto?
Just to add, no, you're not missing anything. We want to retain these entry-level jobs, these manufacturing jobs in our district. You know, Whittemore, one of the 4 companies that or property is going to benefit immediately, employs 30 Laurentians, 30 families that are benefiting from this particular improvement. And they can hire more. They're able to expand, receive more freight, do more business if they're able to have reliable train service. So this really is about jobs. It's about the environment. It's about future of unlocking or the possibility of unlocking future jobs in the industrial yard. Again, I'll provide all the information that's been requested, but I see all positives here.
And let me just make point of this. I mean, I listened to the discussion and I happen to know, I went to the groundbreaking some time ago, and I just, you know, not only talking about jobs, we got empty space that's there. You know, I think if I remember correctly from the groundbreaking or whatever, there was 200,000 square feet of new space that's going to be going and connecting with this rail. And right now it's about 70% empty. I mean, to me, this is economic development. This is job growth. This is helping small businesses in our city. And not only that, the ancillary is that we're going to be fixing part of the rail spur right along South Broadway. There's that grade that's over there on South Broadway. That's a bit of a bump. And if you drive by there, you would know that there's a bit of a problem there. We're going to be able to fix that with these funds. So to me, this is an incredible home run. I want our city council to be confident in their vote tonight that this is going to be a home run vote that helps out business in the industrial park. And we're claiming for business. This is a vote that will certainly cement that. And I really want, but I want councilors to be comfortable, and we need to be able to review some of this stuff so that they are comfortable. And I want to respect that. This is a process. I want to respect that. So at some point, if I want to make, unless the motion is withdrawn, I really want to make a motion again to table to maybe flesh that out a little bit more. Thank you.
Okay, before I go to Councilor De La Cruz, I will ask you, Mr. Soto. You just said that you had that information that you were supposed to provide to the city councilor before today. Did you have that information before, or you just got it today that you couldn't forward to them?
That's correct. Received it, quickly went through it, was unable. What they sent is basically anytime you receive a grant, there's an agreement that we make with the state. So it's in a draft form, outlining, all the materials that are going to be provided, their value, and the fact that those materials constitute our match. I did not have that prepared to send that to council, but I can tomorrow morning prepare that, send that over to the full council, and then answer any questions that you may have.
You understand that if we have to happen to pass the motion today and table this item, these documents, all the documents that the councilor has requested from you, you need to pass it on. Before you answer that, I'm going to go to Councilor De La Cruz.
Yes, I have a recommendation for the city council, not for Mr. Soto. Can we request that Ms. Ronald sit down with Mr. Soto as soon as possible? Can we send a quick note to Ms. Ronald to meet with Mr. Soto, and that they can lay it out all the proposal and the benefit that the city will have. And then we can accelerate this process, because it bothers me when there is an item that needed to go and we keeping it for too long. Then, but I trust Ms. Rano that she will, you know, lay down what is needed, what is in place, and what do we need to know. And I'm sure she's gonna send us a letter saying this is what is going on. Then if we table this matter today, we have to wait a long time to reply back, not to Mr. Soto, but to the business in the community and to the benefit that this can bring to our community. Losing this opportunity is losing money and losing the opportunity to give jobs to people who are in need. I need a job. I might go to you, Mr. Soto, because I need a job. Then, you know, we need to accelerate the process. We cannot delay it because we're waiting for million papers to come. Let's trust Ms. Juano, who has the right to advise us on what to do.
If I could, Councilor, I welcome the opportunity to work with Attorney Ruano in providing that information. If you've noticed, this particular grant was granted to the city in November of last year, and we're now here. It's not that we're late. The reason that this was not submitted for approval is that we've spent in the better part of 4 or 5 months identifying the locations of all the materials needed for this particular project. And until that was itemized, we did not have the information to put together the agreement that's been requested, that information that's already been requested here at council. We haven't had that information kind of readily available until the last couple of weeks. And MassDOT has not had the opportunity to provide the text document that I just referenced until today. So
we council are here to facilitate, to make sure that we get the benefit to our community as much as possible.
Absolutely.
Then we cannot delay stuff.
Okay, so.
Thank you, Madam.
Okay, with that being said, let's see if one of the prevailing sides want to reconsider the vote, and I can see that Councilor Payano is going to be the first one. Councilor Payano, you have the floor to reconsider the vote.
Oh, to reconsider my vote. I don't know about that one. I mean, if things are differently, tomorrow, that's a whole other thing. So here are my thoughts. I completely agree with Councilor LaPlante. This sounds like a great project. Throughout the presentation of this, I took word for word what Mr. Soto was saying. There were, a lot of questions being asked by Councilor Levy and Councilor Rodriguez. I don't think I asked tons of questions. I was basically listening, and Mr. Soto said all those great things. What we said though was give it to us on paper, right? Like that's what we said. So I can't now just continue stick. I think the words was fine going from committee to council, and any of you that know that my work at the committee level, I'm usually saying like, oh, I want to see the documentation before I vote on it, right? In this case, we voted on it without getting that documentation, in part because we had 2 members that had to recuse themselves, and thankfully Council President LaPlante was there to move it forward. So we did not have the documentation then. We don't have the documentation now. I would not vote in favor of it. If Mr. Soto would have emailed us yesterday or even today saying that, hey, we doesn't have the documentation, could you please table this item? That I think that's a whole different it's a whole different ballgame there. At the moment we're being told that perhaps tomorrow we'll receive some documentation. And if that's the case, and tomorrow it's, if this is different then, and this were to I'd be willing to reconsider my vote tomorrow. From what I'm seeing from the last grant, we came in from budget committee thinking one thing, we come at this meeting and it's something different. Here, I just so that's where I'm personally at, and I think I don't know where my colleague Councilor levy is at in this particular thing. But I think anyone that was at that budget committee meeting that lasted a very, very long time knows that we've fully engaged in this discussion. So I'll leave it there. Those are my thoughts. I'm not saying that this is a bad project, but I'm not voting in favor of something that without the documentation there.
So, Councilor Payano, what about if I give you my word that you're going to be having those documents tomorrow? Because we need to make a decision to table it tonight. We can wait until tomorrow. We're not going to have a special meeting tomorrow. So, this is public. This is something that you're going to have first thing in the morning. Mr. Soto, planning director, was committing in front of everyone that he's going to be forward that email tomorrow, first thing in the morning. And one thing could happen, probably was a technical problem that we have today, and you couldn't get it on time. Just put it that way. So give the benefits of today that you're going to be getting all the documentation that you are looking just to feel comfortable to be able to vote in a great project. And then we move forward. If for the next meeting, for whatever reason, you don't get what you were asking for, then you have an entitled just to say no, just because they default. How about that?
So Madam Vice President, if I could take back the floor. So I'll ask, Mr. Soto. So Councilor Plant asked amazing questions, right? Great questions. Mr. Soto, are you saying that the documentation that you're going to provide tomorrow is going to say that the city of Lawrence has to pay zero money into this? Is that what the documentation that you're going to be presenting to us?
No, it won't say that, Councilor Payano. It won't say that. It will simply say the city is required to pay up to 40% of the project cost, but here is the material that's listed that has been donated by the T, which far exceeds that amount. Here's the amount that the value of that is, and that satisfies the need, the 40% match. I would say that.
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Soto. So what the document will say then is that the city has satisfied the 40%.
Yes.
So they're going to say that. So essentially, the city does that. So that's essentially saying that the city doesn't have to pay anything because they've satisfied the 40%. That's the document you're going to show us tomorrow.
I mean, the spirit of what the document reads, yes, that is the messaging. It's not going to be word for word the way that you expressed it. I don't think that's what you were asking. But I would say that this particular grant, the IRAP grant, the state doesn't need our money. They don't want our money. What they want is a commitment from the city. We've been working for months tirelessly in the departments that I mentioned earlier. And we've been working really hard with the T to identify all the material. Like, it's taken a lot of work on our team's behalf or for their part to identify all this. So we've a lot of manpower and hours have gone into this. So the commitment is documented. The commitment is there from the city side. They don't want our money. They're not going to come say, "Hey, you owe us $13,000 because to complete the 40%." We've far exceeded that, and the document's going to outline that. One thing that I would say, this doesn't need to pass tonight. If you guys wanted to wait, if council members wanted to wait, another month, that's perfectly fine. We're still working through the RFP process. We're hoping to get that completed in the next couple of weeks. So if the councilors felt more comfortable waiting a little bit longer, I don't think we would have a problem with that. So I'd leave you with that.
Okay. Councilor Payano, is that okay? Just to make a motion to table? And you reconsider your vote?
So Mr. Soto, so I hope that we do receive that documentation, and that letter is something that the city attorney can say that that does give us the assurance that you're speaking about. I think there are several council members here that have essentially spoken to are asking to wait. So I will make that motion. Because I'm hearing my colleagues, but I will also say that I think it is very important that after, and this is for everyone in general, that if a committee is asking for something, that those documents are delivered, and if they're not delivered, that it's explained why, so that way we don't have to go around in circles like we're doing now. So I'll make a motion to table this item.
Motion to table has been made. Can I hear a second?
Second.
Properly by Councilor Selena Reyes. Roll call.
Councilor Levy,
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Payano,
Yes.
Councilor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Council President LaPlante,
Yes.
Councilor Estela Reyes.
Yes. So what was the number?
6 yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Payano. Councilor President, I'm passing the gavel to you. And thank you, Mr. Soto.
You're welcome. Have a great night.
Thank you very much. Well, we're moving along. We've finished 8121. The next document is on Ordinance Committee reports 6221. Madam Chair and Vice President Stella Reyes, please give the report.
Okay, so let's see if we can make this work. Since all the document for the ordinance committee that is going to be reporting tonight is going to be ordering a public hearing, it is okay for me to take it as a block, just to read one by one, but send it as a public hearing.
That would be in order, Vice President.
Motion to take document 62, 16, 69, 75, and 76 as a block to order a public hearing.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded, and will you be reading all those out, Madam Chair,
Yes.
just so people know what they are? Go right ahead.
So the first one is a handicap parking at 28 Borden Street. The second one, 69, 21 is the handicap parking delete Will Wright Street. The third one is the 7521 request to locate poles, wire in Fisher National Grid and Verizon intersection of Chandler and Water Street. And the last is the 7621 request to locate pole wires in Fisher's National Grid and Verizon Short Street. And they all has been sent out with the favor recommendation to order a public hearing, and I make that as a formal motion.
Motion's been made, it's been properly seconded. Any discussion on this matter? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll for all these documents.
Councilor Estela Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Councilor Payano,
Yes.
Councilor Abdu,
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Levy,
Yes.
Council President LaPlante.
Yes, the motion passes. We will have public hearings on all those matters. Thank you. I am not doing any table matters at this hour, and I'm presuming nobody else is either. So we're going to move on. New business, 87 is request to locate poles and wires fixtures. That's going to the Ordinance Committee. 8821, stop by intersection of Bellevue and Hilltop by Councilor Payano. That's going to Ordinance Committee. 89 is going road approval to convert Diamond Street to a two-way street on a one-way street is going to the Ordinance Committee. 90 is 50-minute parking in front of 109, 113 South Union Street from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. That was put on by me, and that's going to the Ordinance Committee. 91 is a stop sign at Foster Street, northbound and southbound at the Boxford Street intersection, again put on by myself. That's going to the ordinance committee. 92 is an order authorizing to expend grant funds, Essex County COVID-19 response fund. That is going to the budget committee. 94 is a promote and endorse a traffic study improvements at 5 Corners. Again, that's put on by me, and that is going to the ordinance committee. 95, request to expend grant funds, spring break around the world grant, going to the budget committee. 96, request to expend grant funds, cultural passes, is going to the budget committee. 97, request to expend grant funds, state aid grant, is going to the budget and finance committee. Number 99, request to expend grant funds, Mass DOT, to complete the grant FY 2021 reconstruction improvements to the Doyle School and Hancock Street intersections, going to the budget and finance committee. Document 100, a request to expend grant funds, critical services to address COVID-19 emergencies. That is going to the budget and finance committee. Before we go on, I just to the committees, just wanted to bring some information out. It's getting late. We have already heard from the governor with respect to the emergency declaration being lifted on January the 15th, I think it is. It is the 15th. That is the second meeting of our city council in June. If I said January earlier, I'm sorry, I meant June. In June 15th. What does that mean for us? What that means for us at this point, until we hear differently, I'm advising the city council to be prepared to come to the city council chambers starting on June 15th. Unless something happens with the legislature and they make some sort of change, be prepared now to come in on June the 15th. So if things change, this is fluid. Things change, we'll let you know. I'll let you know. We'll find out, but you should be expecting them. That's the first thing. The second thing, by our charter, we are required to come in twice a month, every month. We are going to have 2 city council meetings in July, 2 city council meetings in August 1st and 3rd Tuesdays of the month. Whether we do on the committee meeting schedules is different, but let me just tell you, I've been on council long enough to say I've been to too many emergency meetings in the middle of the summer because we're trying to cut corners. It doesn't work. So you now know our schedule. You can plan accordingly. You're not going to be surprised by an emergency meeting. You know what the meetings are. We're going to have them. So I just word for the wise, and now you can make your plans. So those are the 2, I think, important items I want you for our scheduling purposes. Having said all that stuff, now we're going to do committee stuff. So I am ordinance committee. When are you meeting?
Next Tuesday, I believe it's the 25th, 7 o'clock.
Yes, madam.
Personnel committee and budget. You want to take both? You can take both.
Mr. President, personnel has no new items, therefore will not be meeting. However, personnel committee should be prepared to possibly the week after consider some meetings. More to come in the coming days. Budget and finance. I am unavailable next Tuesday, next Wednesday, which is typically the day of budget and finance. Not knowing my colleague's schedule, I have no problem not being there next Wednesday. But if they want to work with me, any other night would work. So sorry for the long-windedness. So with that, could I propose Monday night? I think I heard. Does Monday night work for the members of the Budget and Finance Committee? Because I think we only have 2 meetings next week, right?
Yes.
Ordinance and budget.
I don't see housing on there. Is there any? I don't see any housing, right?
Can we do it at 6:30?
6:30 on Monday. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes.
That'd work with me. We just need one more for quorum.
So that works for me.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Payano. Thank you, Mr. President. So Monday, the 24th at 6:30, and then I'll work with these same colleagues to figure out some dates for the FY22 budget discussion.
And again, no housing that I can see unless someone sees something that I'm missing. I'm not on the committee.
So no housing. Yeah, housing won't meet.
Very good. And I think
Because
that's,
I still think it's important to ask, just in case, right?
I'm perfectly fine with asking. So, thank you. Any other committees that I'm missing that are having a meeting?
Public safety,
Very good. When is that?
Wednesday.
Okay.
The members of public safety is 6:30 an okay time on Wednesday?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, okay.
I think that's it, councilors. I think we did a lot of work this evening.
My
So at
God,
this-
Counselor, next time bring honey.
Always the cheap seats. There
Motion
is-
to adjourn?
There is a motion to
Second.
Mr. Piano, seconded. I don't know who seconded. I'm going to pick Selena Reyes for that one. Councilor Reyes. Motion made and seconded. No discussion. All in favor. Roll call vote, please. Clerk.
Councilor Levy,
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Abdul,
Yes.
Councilor Payano,
Yes.
Councilor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Councilor Estela Reyes,
Yes.
Council President LaPlante.
Yes. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Have a good
Good
night.
night.
Thank you.